paper like blades in the dark. Promises whispered a sparkless spark. No new attacks, just a slicing knife, cutting through dreams like a butcher's life. Lines on paper like blades in the dark. Promises whispered a sparkless spark. No new attacks, just a slicing knife, cutting through dreams like a butcher's life. Stands with her budget tight, words like daggers in the dead of night. No bullshit claims, no candy to toss, balance sheets drawn in the land of loss. Remember your enemies slash and burn, promises to righteous bridges won't return. State of the union all hollow and bare, constant silence hang heavy in the air. Clap in the room like puppets on strings, empty cheers for the pain she brings. No mommy scramble, no sweet reprieve, just bitter truths hard to believe. Echoes of cuts through the hollow halls, shadows of dreams on crumbling walls. Austerity's hymn sung in icy tones, leaving the people to face it alone. Deliver your enemies, slash and burn, promises to righteous bridges won't return. State of the union all hollow and bare, constant silence and heavy in the air. Heavy in the air.
And do you feel a bit more refreshed after, I don't know, an insane election period?
I mean, well, for starters, first and foremost, welcome everyone that's just come to join us tonight. My name's Laura, and we've got Sam over there. And yes, I do feel a bit rusty.
A bit rusty.
Yeah, I feel a bit rusty. I need to get some DW40 on my hosting skills. Huh?
Being back into presenting.
Yeah. Just got to get some DW40 on that. Feeling a bit rusty around the edges, but hopefully tonight should be a pretty casual night. So should be able to get back into the swing of things.
Oh yeah, it does feel a bit weird after. Oh heck. I mean, the It's and Ballot season's still not finished. For those who are wondering, we'll be having a full-on results show next Sunday, coming live from the Newtown Community Centre. Laura will be coming in from Ekatahuna.
I will be indeed, yes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the budget does not sit down there and allow us to try and transport Laura there. Unfortunately, rental cars are not within our budget at the moment.
Well, I mean, hey, listen, we're just figuring out the insurance side of it, but my sister did pick up a nice new hybrid car. So,
ooh,
we calculate how much it costs to go from Ekatahuna to Lower Hutt. $8.
Oh my god, that's like 3 to 4 litres of petrol.
Yeah. $8.
$8.
Yep, going up and down the Rimutakas, charges up the battery. It's beautiful. It even greets you in Japanese. It's a Honda shuttle.
Ooh. Van?
No, it's a station wagon.
Station wagon. Oh, okay. So it's not quite suitable for what I need. No, because I'm looking, Morsham's looking at upgrading my vehicle for Morsham's. But at the moment, I'm looking at an LCV Delivery 7, which unfortunately, they've got an electric version and a diesel version, but it looks like the diesel version is going to stack up on my situation, not the electric one.
Do they have a hybrid? Do they have a hybrid model?
No, unfortunately not.
Damn, because I am convinced that hybrid for working class folk, people low incomes, hybrid is the way to go.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for those who don't have on-site parking.
Yep.
Yeah, especially if you like having to park on the street or something like that. And that's a common issue in Wellington is street parking. But yeah, I mean, I remember the rental cars I've like rented that were hybrids. Oh my god, they were fucking fantastic
Yeah.
cars. I mean, I remember one time the coffee cart. This is when the clutch went out the second time on the APV, and I had the coffee cart was stranded in Paraparaumu. I hired a rental, and I was the first person to use this rental car, and it was a hybrid. And I got told by the person, make sure you drive in an eco mode. You'll get the best of it. Sat down there and drove it back from the Kapiti Coast via Pukekohe Bay with the coffee cart behind it. And I just got onto the motorway at Parramatta and just put on cruise control at 80 k's, and it just glided nicely. And I drove the whole way like that until I hit Nowrunga, dropped down to 50 k's to go down the gorge, then back up to 80 and drove right into Newtown and pulled it right into my spot at Newtown Market, ready for Saturday to sell coffee, and made my money both on Friday and Saturday to pay for the rental.
Jason brings up a great point about the Honda shuttle. It actually greets you in Japanese, which is really funny because me and my sister, we know a little bit of Japanese. So it's like, oh, konnichiwa. It's like, it's like, oh, hello there. I wasn't expecting this.
Oh, Tilly's car used to do that when I was car sitting Tilly's, was it Nissan Cube?
It's like, Honda Natashi wa. And it's like, oh, konnichiwa. It's like, how are you doing?
We will get Malco. She will be able to translate it perfectly to a T of exactly what the words are. Humphrey's wife.
Oh, I actually have a Japanese friend that lives across the road from me. So they can pretty much translate. Yeah. I already got a translator, but yeah, it's just really funny. It's like, oh, okay, hello. But yeah, I absolutely love the little car. It's fantastic. But yeah, hybrid cars, folks, definitely the way to go, especially with the fact that this government sucks at electrifying things. So
yeah,
and if you live in a rural area, hybrid is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I'm just hoping one day when they can sit there and start getting vans.
Hybrid vans?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's hybrid vans. I'm pretty sure there are.
Not for the decent sized commercial ones. I want one, but I want one with tow bar. I also want one with the computer that ain't going to sit down there and do it because the reason why I'm looking at the diesel over the electric for that could replace the APV is the fact that the payload you can have in the diesel is half a ton more. And it doesn't have it doesn't have the computer that plays around with your weight. Whereas if I tow, my coffee cart will be right on its weight limit. Whereas the diesel equivalent, it's got an extra ton slack in the system.
Yeah. For those confused, don't worry. No, this is not a car review show. This is a policy review show. So don't worry. We will get onto policy very soon. But we're just talking.
Yeah. So now we've done our 5 minutes talking about what's the latest cars we'd like to drive. Let's get on to our glorious members of Parliament and the Justice Select Committee, chaired by his rightfully right honourable. No, he's not right. He's just honourable Andrew Bailey, MP for Port Waikato. And we will be kicking off we'll start off with the Electoral Commission, followed by the report from the Attorney General with Crown Law's Senior Crown Counsel. So
Alrighty.
Let's kick this off.
Thank you.
Right, now I'd like to call up the Electoral Commission. We've got quite a bit of time with you, but it's slightly we'll find a bit of time. Particularly bad sharing today.
Is it public in it? Yes.
Yeah, cool. Right.
Oh, have we got questions?
Hey, nice to see all of you. You've obviously got two chairs, so I'll let you do what you want to do.
Thank you. Well, I just have some preliminary opening remarks, which will only take a few minutes. But
so, do you mind just introducing your team?
I'll do that in a moment, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee and Mr. Chair, I'm Simon Moore, Chair of the Electoral Commission. I was appointed in November last year, but at that time I was still a sitting judge. So effectively I've been in this role since the beginning of this year. but with me is my deputy, Jane Mears, and the Chief Electoral Officer and CEO of the Electoral Commission, Carl Kane, and to my far left is our legal manager, Christina Temmel. The Electoral Commission prepared a report on the 2023 general election to the Minister of Justice. That was in May last year. It's tabled in Parliament and submitted to this committee. We made 44 recommendations for change to electoral legislation. By way of summary, those were related to improving efficiency and streamlining, mostly were about process and modernisation, particularly digital innovation and automatic enrolment updates. The Commission appeared before the committee to speak to that report as part of the committee's inquiry into the election. Following the committee report back on its inquiry and recommendations, there's been a policy development process. The Commission has provided operational information, data from previous elections and estimated impact on the number of special votes or processing hours to assist with the analysis. It's provided information for the evaluation of impacts on participation, integrity, cost and timeliness in the Ministry of Justice Regulatory Impact Statement. 21 of our recommendations for change, including our recommendations in relation to modernisation and improvement of electoral delivery, have been included in the bill. We've been working on how to implement the changes contemplated in the bill in time for the next general election. That is an extraordinarily big piece of work. And we also have the task of educating the voting public about any changes, and that too is a formidable task. We'll be communicating to the public on electoral boundary changes that mean around 700,000 electors will be in a different electorate.
All right, just pause the video for a second.
Next election than they.
Here we are.
All right, okay, folks, in the chat. If you think he's talking really, really slowly and you want to speed it up, let Sam know, because I know he's dying to speed up the footage. But yeah, I totally understand what you guys are referring to. Unfortunately, public speaking is not part of the job by the looks of things. We will endure.
Well, one of them is a retired judge.
Is he used to speaking in front of a camera?
Probably not in front of a camera. No, he's probably used to speaking in front of a courthouse where he's not used to probably being second fiddle.
Your sentence is to fall asleep for a really, really long time.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue.
Let's continue.
We were in the last election, and just to give some perspective on that, that equates to just over 20% of the North Island electoral population, 2.7% of the South Island electoral population, and 0.6% of the Māori electoral population.
Okay, I think everyone has spoken.
Comment.
Let's get this guy on 1.5 speed. I think everyone is. I think
we'll start with 1.25.
Yeah.
So Vimeo can actually work with it.
Yep.
It's behind me. I'm going to hand over to the Chief Electoral Officer, Carl Kane, to talk to our submission on the topics which we understand are of interest to this committee. He's the one to talk about it. He's the one who understands and knows the nuts and bolts of the process and will be much more use to this committee than anything I can say. In that sense, I expect he'll be doing the heavy lifting for the next hour or so. I think so. Over to Mr. Lekane.
Great. Well, thank you for the invitation to make this submission. We understand you want to talk to us about the post-election process, how long it takes, key tasks, how the enrolment close interacts with that. And we understand you might also want to talk to us about voting place selection and the changes to the treating offences and so on. And obviously can answer any other questions you've got. We provided a handout, which I hope you've all been able to get a hold of. Great. We want to use this as a bit of a guide for the discussion and the questions. Just to put this into context, this sets out all the key processes we have to follow in the post-election period. Most of them are about the integrity of the final result. What we've put down the left-hand side is the different types of enrolments and votes, what we got in 23, and our forecasts for 2026. Then on the right-hand side, that's what comes out at the end. So in 2023, what the different results were, or numbers of votes, and different types of special votes, those that were disallowed and so on. And again, our projections for 2026. Now those projections, they're a planning guide, and it's our forecast around what's going to happen as a result of population growth. We think there's going to be a continuing trend of people making enrolments as close to voting as possible. Growth in overseas voting, that's been quite a strong feature. And the difficult thing for us is to really try and forecast what the behaviour change will be. So how will people respond to some of the changes in this bill? So we've had to err on the side of more transactions that we're going to need to do so we can plan for that. We didn't quite get that right in 23, and that caused us a lot of difficulty. So we've been putting a lot of focus on how do we get those forecasts on the side of where we need to do most of the work. So I think it's important to understand that. So what it shows in the grey boxes is what happened in 2023. The purple dotted boxes are what we're planning for 2026 based on the current electoral amendment bill. Okay, so I'm not going to go through every bit of detail because there's quite a lot in there, but I'll just say how some of the changes interact. So the key first step in the post-election process is when the roll closes. And currently it closes at midnight on election day. That means after that time, we have to finish processing all the enrolment transactions that have happened up until that point. And that's really critical because that tells us who's eligible to vote and what votes can be counted. Really important step. Now, our usual planning is we would have had that completed by day 4 after election day, so on the Wednesday. It took us more than twice that time to do it because of the big increase in enrolments. Now, what this bill proposes, as you know, is closing that roll on midnight the 13th day before election day. What that means in effect for our job is then we would get all of those enrolment updates processed before election day. That essentially gains us 4 days in the post-election period. And that enables us to then do the remaining steps. So some of the important ones are we have to create a master roll of who voted for every electorate. So we take 19,000 different rolls where ordinary votes have been marked off, and we consolidate those into 70, or 72 last time, it'll be 71 this time, rolls that say who was issued an ordinary vote. And that's really, really important to have that record of who's voted because a whole lot of the integrity steps we have to take after that are dependent on that. At the same time, as we're doing that, we are repatriating special votes to the electorates that they should be counted in. So currently we have 13 days to do that. The bill's proposing to reduce that to 10 days. We're reasonably confident we can get all of those special votes delivered back to their electorates they need to be counted in. So there was about 149,000 at the last election. It's important that they're counted in the electorates that they should be counted in because you've got a returning officer who's responsible for producing the result. You've got a JP who needs to sign off on that result, and you've got scrutineers who want to observe that all the votes that are cast for their electorate are counted there. So that's why we do the repatriation, and we are required to do that. The next really important step is checking the special vote declarations are valid. And we start all of these tasks at about the same time. So we do as much in parallel as we can. And we're required to make sure there's a valid declaration. We also start checking that the special votes, the voter is qualified to vote in the electorate that they've cast their vote in. Where they're not, we have to determine whether that should be counted as a party vote rather than also the candidate vote. So while that's also going on, we have to incorporate what are called post-writ changes. So an example of that is where someone casts a vote, then passes away before election day, we're required to withdraw their vote from the count. Also, if we find people have their vote should be counted in a neighbouring electorate, we then transfer those to that electorate as well. And then the next big step we have to take is that consolidated roll. We have to identify whether anyone appears to have voted more than once. then we have to investigate all of those cases. Most of them are administrative errors in marking off the roll. But sometimes people inadvertently vote twice, and we can talk about those examples if you're interested in those. We end up with a very small number where we think there's a dual vote, and we refer to the police to investigate. But the ones we can't get to the bottom of, we have to go and find them and extract them. So that means trying to find the ballot box that they were in. It means finding the pack they were in, and then going through and peeling back the black stickers to find the number that matches to what's been marked off as a dual vote. So it's a significant exercise. So we do all of those steps in parallel as much as we can, but we can't count those special votes until we've finished all of those steps. It's only at that point that we can then complete the counting of the special votes. And then we also build in time to do a final quality assurance, which we do nationally, looking right across to make sure all the steps have been taken, to make sure all the numbers add up, and to look for any anomalies that may have been missed in the process today. So if you look at the actual counting, it's only about up to 4 days for the ordinary votes getting a second count and for the special votes getting a count. Most of the time is doing all the integrity checks that we're required to do. So maybe I'll pause there and see if you have any questions.
Okay, and I think that's our cue to pause. I'd like to mention one of those 149,000 votes that was a special vote was a guy called Christopher Luxon, then leader of the opposition, who went down to the electorate of Botany to sit there and do a special vote because he lives in Epsom.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And this is actually one of the reasons, I mean, I can go over, there's a number of reasons why it's taking really, really long, or it's taking longer now to count all the votes. And there are three big reasons. One, huge spike in special votes. Going over the numbers in 2023, over 600,000 special votes were cast. That's 21% of all votes, guys. It was back in 2014, it was only 14%. And half of these special votes were from people who weren't enrolled at all or enrolled incorrectly. So, you know, currently at the moment, you can enroll or update your details right up to or even on election day. But this does create a huge last-minute rush for the Electoral Commission to process. And for the exact reasons why this guy just pointed out before, there's a lot of integrity checks and all that stuff that's got to be done. So there is a potential solution here to solve that doesn't involve closing enrollment earlier. And this is actually the same position that the ministry proposed to the minister, but the minister said, no, we're not doing that. But anyway, it's to stick with automatic enrollment updates. So basically, it will allow the Electoral Commission to automatically update your address on the electoral roll using information from other government agencies like Waka Kotahi.
It's actually the one which I can confirm right now. From my days of working in the Electoral Commission, that was the second place they used to get update details, with being the first place was post office mail redirections. So if you put in a redirection to redirect your mail between point A and point B, 4 weeks after that redirection was in place, you got a letter sent by the Electoral Commission to update your enrolment details. The second place they cross-reference that is the Land Transport Database, which is what they have access to, and then go steps forwards. I mean, that would be nice if they could expand it to multiple agencies, but depending on a person's situation, depends on which agency's information is the most accurate. If it's a beneficiary, work and income will be the most accurate information. But if they're a worker, work and income ain't the most accurate agency.
So just to put it out there, so by the way, the minister has opted to go for the automatic updates plus the closing the enrollment early. Now, the ministry has stated that you wouldn't need to close enrollment early if you just focused on the automatic updates. Right, making the system more efficient, making sure that the details are kept up to date and everything. It is more expensive to go down that route of focusing on automatic updates. Like at the moment, the upfront cost is estimated to be about $7 million. But that's chump change, man, compared to everything else. I mean, if
that reduces the number of people having to do special votes, that's one way you can do it. Here's another way you can reduce to have special votes. So let's use Queensgate as a Wellington shopping mall example. You know, instead of just having Hutt South, Remataka, Ikaroa, Rāwhiti, and Te Tai Tonga polling books there, why not also have, now this is based on 2023 elections, electorates, Rongotai, Wellington Central, Ohariu, Mana, possibly Wairarapa. Now,
Yep.
you might only get 20% of those votes in that bracket, but it means those 20% of votes that come in aren't special votes that load onto the system. Now, that's something that could be in there. If we want to use a North Shore example, where I have a friend who did 2017 was when he did it, and 50% of the votes that went through that particular polling office were special votes because that particular office only offered North Shore and Te Tai Tokoro voters in there. Whereas you go across the motorway, you're a Northcote electorate. And the most common electorates that were getting special votes were the three neighbouring electorates.
Yeah, it's just frustrating. The government's just chosen to not just go with the automatic updates, right? Which is a good thing. We want automatic updates. They've also decided to go with the dumb thing of closing the election enrollment early, which is going to see thousands of people potentially out of the system, not having their vote counted.
Voting in the old electorate.
Or voting in the old electorate, yeah.
Yeah, especially if you've, say, moved within 6 weeks of an election, that would be problematic because law states that if you move electorates, you have to reside in the electorate 28 days before you're allowed to sit there and cast a vote in that electorate.
Yeah, I mean, there are good ideas in this bill. Unfortunately, they're partnered up with really dumb ideas.
Yeah, it's like if you have both, if you have the automatic enrollment, you probably won't have to close off the roll early.
Yeah.
It's like, it's an interesting one. And will it be delivered in time for 2026? That's the other question.
Yeah.
Or would it be a new layer of system that would have to be put in there? Also, which government agencies do you draft that information from? I'd probably say it's wise to get it from the driver's license database.
Yep.
I think that is probably the wisest one. I mean, this is one that isn't in there, but one database you probably get more accuracy from is the Insurance Council.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is, people are more likely to tell their insurance company their up-to-date information when they move. They're more likely that's the first thing they do before they sit there and deal with the IRD or deal with WINS. Or
that is true.
Deal with even the GP.
Yep.
They're more likely to tell the insurance company that they've moved house.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe it's something that you could possibly have, could that be another one is to have, you have an arrangement with the car address, which, usually would get picked up at the point of renewal. Now, this is something where that could work positively in favour, is low-income people don't tend to buy 12 months car registration. They tend to only can afford 3 months or 6 months. So and if with the fact that we have email renewal notices sent out, those people who are transient or moving houses more frequently on lower incomes are more likely to get picked up by a rego update notice, subject to the person actually updating the details, versus, say, someone who has, say, a rich person, for example, or an affluent person who tends to pay their car rego 12 monthly. So that's something that could actually work in favour, is that lower income people, in that aspect, could be picked up a bit more sooner because they don't buy their car rego more often. No, they buy it more often. And so that their point of update goes up.
Yeah, and by the way, everything we've just stating here, this is complementary to special votes. You don't have to get rid of special votes, but this is one way we can reduce the amount of people that cast a special vote. We can make the system more efficient.
I mean, also the other one is certain people who will always have to do special votes. If you are a police officer,
yep.
If you are a court staff member, if you're a judge, if you are a victim of domestic violence and have a protection order against your perpetrator, you can apply to be on the unpublished roll.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that extends to, say, the medical profession. I do know it is applicable if you work in mental health. So these people are only going to be doing special votes.
Yep.
Because the only people who can access that database is a registrar of electors. And I do remember that because I remember the number of times I had to put, was it unpublished pending on people because they've struck an occupation that's come through. It's like handbrake here. Like the number of people who put on their enrolment forms, police officer.
Yep.
And as soon as you had police officer put on there, you didn't you completed the enrolment as unpublished pending and sent them out unpublished paperwork.
Yep.
You know, that was a very standard process. You
Yep.
know, and the other one that also used to happen was if you had one unpublished at the address, everyone else at the address went unpublished pending and send out the paperwork as well, because typically you don't want to, particularly with the same last name, you don't want police officer's wife or police officer husband, you don't want them, if they've got the same last name, to have that all be exposed by the same address.
I think all of this, right, not just this bill, but heaps of other bills that we've reviewed in the past, there's an underlying problem here with this government. And I read through a lot of these regulatory impact statements, and every single one I've just about gone through is no public consultation. No public consultation. No public consultation was done. And it's like, this is a problem because you realize when you do public consultation, oh, why did you go on the unpublished roll? Why did you cast a special vote? Because people have different circumstances in their lives and their occupations may require them to move around, or, they may be homeless, or they might have had a mental health crisis. There's like heaps of reasons why people have to cast a special vote.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and shout out to Mr. Alex. Thank you so much for the $10. Had to get my mum a special vote because Election Commission had lost my mum's details and told her to update her details as we live in Woburn. Also took a week for Elections NZ to update my details. There you go. Really good example. Thank you for that, Mr. Alex.
And thank you for the super chat. Only $118 US to go, and then we can get a payout. Just for those wondering, before you get a payout for YouTube super chat, the annoying thing is it will convert it into US dollars, and the payout has to be at least $130 US before they'll pay it back out to us. So keep those super chats coming in.
Oh, I'm just grateful that they put a super chat in. That's fantastic.
Well, I do still think it's ironic that our super chats, the first and second one, are the same person.
Yeah. But yes, if you do send in your super chat and you want me to read it dramatically or something like that, I can do that. I can read it for you in a very dramatic voice.
And if you're not watching live, you can always do a super thanks.
Yes.
Okay, let's hear more from the Electoral Commission.
Yes.
Basic question.
Yeah.
If I may, on the basis of this diagram, specific, on the basis of these changes, how many days sooner will official results be available?
So based on the forecast we've done and the changes that are proposed, we don't think we can deliver it sooner than 20 days. Now, the key point here is
Just to be, how many days was it last time?
20 days.
So there will be no difference.
No, and that's the need to explain why. There's a really important point here. People who update their enrolment after RIP day and before the 13-day close off will still have to do a special vote.
And I accept your position, but why are we making these changes then?
This is not a change that we recommended.
Okay.
So is it fair to say, just to understand where the difference in timing is, you reduce
Hey,
4 days out of the enrolment processing period?
Did you catch that guy behind the Electoral Commission? Can you go back just a little bit? I just saw his face. He's like, oh! Yeah, play it again. The guy with the glasses and the mustache.
Well as we can. We're required to make sure there's a valid declaration. We also start checking that the special votes, the voter is qualified to vote in the electorate that they've cast their vote in. Where they're not, we have to determine whether that should be counted as a party vote rather than also the candidate vote. So while that's also going on, we have to incorporate what are called post-writ changes. So an example of that is where someone casts a vote, then passes away before election day, we're required to withdraw their vote from the count. Also, if we find people have their vote should be counted in a neighbouring electorate, we then transfer those to that electorate as well. And then the next big step we have to take is that consolidated roll. We have to identify whether anyone appears to have voted more than once. then we
I
have to
think
investigate all of those cases.
Sorry, I think we jumped a little bit too far.
Yeah, just a little
but
bit too
I
far
think we found the
backwards.
guy.
Yeah, we found the guy with the glass and the mustache.
This is not a change that we recommended.
Okay.
This guy.
So is it fair to say,
Yeah, that was me when I was reading the regulatory impact statement. Me too, buddy. Me too. Yeah, that was my exact reaction when I was reading through the reports.
Now, let's see if we can see if I can find a way to do this.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Nice.
3, 4. This guy, I'm sorry, you're going to be made famous.
Based on the
Well, it was
forecast
a
we've
great
done
reaction.
and the changes that are proposed, we don't think we can deliver it sooner than 20 days. Now, the key point here is
Just to be, how many days was it last time?
20 days.
So there will be no difference.
No, and that's the need to explain why. There's a really important point here. People who update their enrolment after RIP day and before the 13-day close off will still have to do a special vote.
And I accept your position, but why are we making these changes then?
This is not a change that we recommended.
Okay.
Ah!
so is it fair to say, just to understand where the,
So now the next thing is
Got him.
okay. Unfortunately, that one's not going to make a change. But I think we have found where the person is. I think we've managed to find out. So those who can sit there and see there.
the difference in timing is, you reduce 4 days out of the enrolment processing period at the top.
Yes.
And gain 3 extra days at the bottom for verification, what you call final Q&A and sign off.
Yes, we've
Essentially, is that what we're saying? Because as Mr. Webb obviously says, the date here is the same as the last election, but
Yes.
you built in under this arrangement.
Yes, and that's because we're forecasting that there'll still be around 700,000 special votes. We've got to run through all these integrity checks. So we're forecasting them to increase over
Can I just ask
2023.
a similar related question? If these changes
He's
were
giggling now.
made, what would the outcome be then? So what's the counterfactual, if you like?
So what we would have to do is we would still aim to get all those enrolments processed by day 4. We would just have to resource up at a much bigger scale than otherwise, so we can get
So
those done.
would it be fair to say you'd need more funds?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, I'm going to go, Ms. Celia Brown.
Celia Wade Brown will do nicely. Thank you. And nice to speak to you. I had a couple of questions from the diagram. First of all, is this table going to be tabled in our minutes so that the public will have access?
Well, it's a public meeting, so it's already
So
going to be done.
we'll, this will,
Yeah.
right, thank you. First, secondly, I had a question about not enrolled anywhere. Most of these numbers have gone up by, I don't know, some percentage, but that one has gone up by sort of 5 times as much, near enough. What's the reason for that, do you think?
That would be people who haven't updated or haven't enrolled or updated their enrolment. They might come to the voting place and tell us they have done. And so if they tell us they have done and we can't find them on the roll, to be safe, we will issue a special vote and then check that afterwards.
I think I understand what it is, but I don't understand is why it's had such a dramatic increase between 23 and your estimate for 26.
Because people won't be able to roll when they go to vote when they otherwise would have.
So that's basically not enrolled anywhere and therefore not able to vote.
Yes.
Right, can I just go back up a level? Because, Mr. Moore, when you introduced it, you said there were 44 recommendations, 21 accepted.
Oh, shit,
ones
that's
that
less than
weren't
half.
accepted, was there a reason why? Was it due to practicality? You know, you've already indicated it's quite a lot of pressure to be able to make this happen for 2026. Was that the primary reason why a lot of the recommendations around streamlining and gaining greater efficiencies, or was it other reasons?
Pause the video.
Do you want to?
We made a range of
And Alex is back with another super chat. Alrighty. Electoral Commission speakers look like they've been caught on the traffic lights or a meteor has hit them. They look confused, shocked, and whacked. Me too, buddy. I feel I'm also confused, shocked, and whacked. Thank you for the super chat, man.
I mean, they've got so much time dedicated. So I swear, we're going to be literally, the show is going to be based on like the Electoral Commission submission, Crown Law, and Graham Edgelers.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Continue the video.
Recommendations in a whole lot of areas.
Yeah.
Including things like electoral finance changes around the emergency powers, the emergency provisions for emergencies. There are a lot of areas where the bill has not gone, and the government response to the committee's report indicated that there were some that would be in the amendment bill and some that would be looked at in a longer time frame.
Right.
So quite a few other recommendations we made were in that package for a longer time frame. But there were also some things that the commission recommended that the committee just didn't agree with.
Okay, and that, of course, that always happens. Your other point that you made earlier was the significant increase in enrolments. Can you just help the committee around why that is? And presumably that's going to continue, but what's really driving that?
We think there's a range of reasons. A lot of people do their life administration online, digitally, when it suits them anytime. And we think, particularly for younger voters, that's how they live their lives. And we think that's a key part of this. Also, we do a huge information campaign to really focus people, particularly getting enrolled by writ day, because it makes it easier for them and it makes it easier for us. But, we're competing for people's attention. While we know we get good recognition of our information education campaign.
So isn't the description, it's not that you're getting more people enrolling, you're getting more people enrolling late. Is that what's happening? People are delaying before they actually do the enrolment. But in terms of percentage of the population that have enrolled, where do we sit around that? Are we getting more people as a percentage, like 85, 90%?
We got 94.7 at the last election, which was the highest for quite some time.
So if that's the case, we're getting more people, but also we're getting a lot more people delaying until they're enrolled.
Yes.
That's your point around this 700,000, is it?
Yes.
Right. And the driver for that, obviously you're talking about younger people with digital, the way they operate. Is there other reasons why this is? And I suppose I'm just getting at the question, is it people just choosing to do it when it suits them? We've had a number of submitters today who've talked about people with disabilities who find it very difficult. And so I'm trying to get a view from you as to whether it's one of choice and to what extent it's a question of choice. I choose to do it later, or is it a question that a lot of people find it more difficult to enrol? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. We're seeing quite a shift for people to enrol online, and I think they find that easier. But equally, we know from the work we do providing education in communities, some people, they don't trust the electoral system. They don't have a lot of faith in institutions. They're not sure if they want to vote. And we have to do quite a bit of work to understand why they can trust the electoral system in voting. So sometimes people mistrust is behind them not enrolling.
Right.
And
And I'm going to hit a pause on this one. The reason why there won't be trust in the system is because of bills like this. It doesn't sit down there and add in on this one here. Is like, if you don't sit down there and trust the bills, people aren't going to sit there and go into the system. The former flatmate of mine, Panache, when I was in Gordon Street, he is from Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
Zimbabwe associate politicians as being corrupt. He was a same day, voting day enrolment because G dragged him to the polling booth. You get people like, if we go to Coromandel Street, Charles didn't know as a permanent resident he was eligible to vote. He only voted in the 2022 local body elections because I got him enrolled to vote. Emma in that flat only got in there because it's got the problem of, because of being enrolled to vote. It's a shame Charles is an act voter, but hey,
it doesn't matter what sort of voter you are.
He's voting.
Yep.
He's voting. How many of these people doing that? I remember telling, was it Simon? What's his name from Regenerate, who swore black and blue to me while he was a permanent resident, he can vote.
Yep. So voter education is something we've got to deal with as well.
Especially when you're he was telling me as a candidate, black and blue, that I was wrong.
What? As a candidate?
Yeah. He was telling me that as a candidate, I'm wrong and I should learn to brush up on the law. And I used to work for the Electoral Commission.
What?
He was wrong.
Yeah, and this bill is also wrong.
Now, this is what Laura's asked me to share because I'm the one who's got the shared screen.
there we go, guys. Kiwi Skirt, you requested it. Here's your stats. We love stats around here. It'd be really nice if the Electoral Commission actually bought like big billboards saying, "Look at my numbers." But we do it here. We do it live. So look at all these people who casted a special vote. Look at the reason for casting a special vote.
You know, so 300 to 350,000 were either on the dormant roll or not at the correct address or something on Writs Day.
Yep.
And just to let you know, local body elections Writs Day equivalent, or as we call it here at It's Ballot, Nomination Day, was Friday the 1st of August.
Yep.
Okay, those outside the electorate.
Yes.
That's quite a big number. Christopher Luxon is one, and probably Amanda Luxon is part of that 149,057. In 2017, both Bill English and Mary English were in that figure.
Yep.
Because they also special voted outside the electorate. Okay, these overseas. Okay, I'm actually surprised that number of overseas is actually lower than what I thought it would have been.
You want to bet it's going to be higher in the 2026 election?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I do think that. Yes, yeah. Yeah. And now the unpublished roll. Okay. No, that's a relevant figure. This figure here about hospitals.
That's relevant.
Care homes, prisons.
Yep.
You know, that makes sense. Now, this is the interesting one, is that there were 15,700 takeaway or postal votes. So that must mean someone has gone in to do that to basically make that happen. Telephone dictation. Ooh.
Now, tell me about this. What is a dictation vote?
Okay, so now I do know of, oh God, I can't remember his name. Velma's boyfriend. Well, don't know if she could have married him by now.
Some guy.
When this happened to him was the 2008 election. He had an accident with an injury. He didn't do it by telephone dictation, but he had to point to on the ballot paper and the JP did the ticks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
So that can be done. Blake, if you're in the chat, you can tell us how your one works because you're in that dictation vote.
True.
Now, the interesting part is Blake's votes, however, have never been special votes. Yeah. Now, remote voting. I don't know what that means, but hey, that could be.
Oh, that's like that's if you're like on a fishing vessel.
Oh, okay.
Out at sea.
Yeah, well,
or you're with the military.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, you do get points where people do, outside of there. And obviously these are the declarations in there. So yeah, the special votes doubled between these two elections.
Yep.
Now,
and one of the reasons
I'd love to know is what's the breakdown between general electorates and Māori electorates in proportion, but that obviously is not.
Well, a question I have too is that number also impacted by COVID?
The special votes.
Yep.
Yeah, it could have been. Well, yeah, but I mean the numbers jump between the two elections.
Yep.
It's gone up, not down. So I don't know if that's necessarily COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do have an aging population, so I do wonder how much of that. It'd be good to get an age breakdown as well.
Yeah, if that information is available. That's the thing. Like, yes, there's a date of birth on an enrolment form, but at the same time, you don't typically tend to have the same information that's sitting in there.
I hope you guys are appreciating this because these are all the stats and figures that the Electoral Commission should have had big pictures of to show Andrew Bailey.
Sure. Well, here's the interesting part is they're estimating up to 1 million special votes by the 2032 general election.
Yeah.
Like, that's quite scary. Now, I do believe that number's going up, and I believe that will be overseas votes.
And also, we have a growing population here at home as well.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, That was so true, yeah.
So it's going to be proportionate. I mean, I was looking at those numbers, like, okay, 20%, 24%, 30, it seems to be pretty proportionate to the number of people who are moving over here and who are, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully we're getting these people to actually vote, yeah. Shall we get back to More from the Electoral Commission.
Yes.
Oh, and we'll share the correct tab. There we are.
The other thing is a lot of people don't enrol till they know whether they want to vote or who they want to vote for as well.
True.
That's the other thing we see.
Okay, now I've got two questions here from, oh, do you want to do a stuff on that?
Well, I'd like to stop as well, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
How do you know that that's why they're waiting to enrol?
Because they tell us.
okay. Right, Mr. Cossey, it's up for you.
Yeah, it's something that I did, and I have got a primary. But first of all, can I just pick up what Mr. Bailey was asking? Because we've seen over the last few elections a huge increase in the number of people voting early. And with that, we've made early voting more accessible and more available, more locations, longer periods, and more people take it up. So I'm wondering, the more that we make late enrolment or on the day enrolment available, would it not be fair to expect that more people would take that up? Because why would I fill in that form and send it back when I can just turn up on the day and do it?
Well, that's an interesting question. The 2020 election, the advanced voting was about 66%, and it dropped back slightly in 23. So it's always hard to predict what the behaviour is going to be. In 2020, we really pushed voting early to spread the crowds out because it was in the time of COVID. We didn't push that message in 23, so we're not sure if that around the 60% advanced voting is where it's going to settle or where it'll shift up and down again.
But the point is, we've seen a massive change over the last 20 years. I had to early vote in 2002, and it had to be done by exception.
Oh!
Now we've seen a significant, more than half, and that may go up and down, but a significant proportion doing it. Would it not be fair to expect that if we said to everyone, you can just turn up and roll on the day, and that's a course of action that could be taken, then more people would slowly take up that opportunity?
Potentially, it's hard to say, how people will behave. I think, the automatic enrolment updates is why we've recommended that, is that's going to help mitigate any of those sorts of behaviour changes that are pretty hard to predict.
Okay, and just, if I can, Mr. Chair, finally, just my last one was, in your submission, you went through a lot of details, like I think one that people have asked questions about is the need to return special votes to the electorate in which they're for, and you said, well, there's a returning officer responsible and there's a JP that has to sign off on them. But surely in this day and age, given that the Commission has that overall responsibility, could we not centralise that and make it more efficient in 2025, 2026, and find a different JP to do it, or have appoint returning officers that are responsible for all this, all the votes? There must be a way to do it in a smarter way, isn't there?
We do centralise that for overseas votes. That's because most of them are done through the download-upload system.
Yeah. So couldn't you just do the same?
It would introduce a significant amount of complexity. We'd have to look into that in greater detail. I mean, there is provision in this bill to start processing special votes before election day, and we are looking at doing that for the overseas votes because that's where we've got quite a high volume of votes for one returning officer. But there's lots of different things we need to look at in terms of streamlining the process, and those could definitely be in the mix.
Okay, Mr. Stevenson, question.
I think we're going to have to put more money in, Tim, if we want to do that.
Well, and also, Tim has got a good point.
Yeah, he does.
Because in 2002, he would have been in the Air Force.
Yes.
Yeah,
he does. That's what I said. It's like, okay, thank you for showing the room why special votes are important. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, exactly. Considering, you're a citizen.
It's like, yeah, so, how about using your service, right, in the military? Thank you for your service, sir. Using that as that experience, can we not close off early? Can we not close off special voting? Come on, man.
Or the same day enrolment, because
same day enrolment. Yes, thank you.
I can tell you right now, from when I did work at Electoral Commission, guess which military base I used to clean up a lot on enrolment details.
It wasn't Linton, was it?
Yeah, it was Linton.
Oh, yeah, I know some of the fellas that work out there. Yeah.
And it's just the thing is you've been redeployed to a new military base. Bang, you're on a new electoral role in many cases. I mean, actually, funny enough, if you got redeployed from Waiouru or Ahahia to Linton, you'd actually be on the same electoral role. But that's not normally the case. If you got redeployed from Devonport, the Navy base, to RNZ base Auckland, you would be changing electoral roles.
This is where I'd love to pick Rob Golden's brain. It's like, did you ever have to cast a special vote when you were serving in the military as a captain?
Or, well, he's one. Other one you can probably pick is Ron Mark.
Or Ron Mark, yeah.
Yeah. It's just basically, you've got a lot who would be able to sit there and actually do that. At least the military, at least if you are serving overseas by deployment, you're exempt from the 3-year rule. You know, because you're classed as a diplomat serving overseas
Yeah,
in the eyes of the Electoral Commission.
I don't know. Did National think about the military, or did anyone think of the military or the police force or anything like that when they were writing this?
Probably not.
it's like
No. Probably not.
Damn.
Yeah. Okay, let's hear more from Todd Stevenson.
From you.
Yeah, just a couple, if that's okay, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just staying on this. Well, the chair and chair of the Electoral Commission in his opening talked about wanting to use more technology, etc. Well, yeah, and I think you just touched on the automatic updating of addresses, etc. What other ideas has the Electoral Commission got for keeping the rolls and people's details up to date once they're enrolled? That's my first question.
The best system we've seen internationally is the automatic enrolment updates. And what we've learned from the Canadians and Australians who I've spoken to regularly is that it takes about 3 electoral cycles to get the full benefit of that. That's why we received money in this year's budget to make a start on that. So that's a good first step in the changes here. I think the other things that will have a lot of potential to convert more special votes to ordinary votes, as you heard from previous submitter around electronic roll mark-off. And that's something we're keen to investigate. There's potential to use technology to manage the validation and qualification of special votes and then do the counts. So we also got money in this year's budget to do a business case to properly investigate and set out a proposition for starting to implement those technologies. What we've learned from the Australians is they're expensive, have high cost. You've got to work them through really carefully to make sure they work with your laws, that they're resilient and that they're not going to break down and cause issues later on. So they tend to roll those sorts of innovations out on a really small scale and scale them up over subsequent elections as they learn how to make them really resilient and secure.
Okay, thank you. Just one more, Mr. Chair, if it's okay. I've asked a few people today about the idea of automatically enrolling people. So basically, the government would already have access to some data, so we know when someone's going to turn 18, or so, driver's license, I don't know, passports, birth records. What would be the Commission's point of view on an idea of having some kind of automatic enrolment for people once they turn 18?
I think the only thing to solve, and we're not sure what the answer is for people of Māori descent who get the choice of a Māori roll or the general roll. And that's a choice now. You can't enrol either digitally or on paper without indicating which roll you want to go on. So there'd have to be a way to try and solve that.
Okay, taking that point, but just say for argument's sake, everyone was on the automatically enrolled on the general roll, but then given the option to move, would that be one way to deal with it?
I think potentially, but I think that would need to be worked through pretty carefully. We've been at pains to make that a really neutral choice for people of Māori descent.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm going to go to Ms. Walters.
Interesting how Todd's saying, we could just put them on the general roll and then they could
It's like, nice try, but we saw that one coming, mate. Good on the Electoral Commission for catching that one, because it's like, my brain was going, hold on, because it's my first time reacting to this. I haven't watched any of this footage. I'm like, hold on, man. I'm on the Māori roll. If you were to grab my details and automatically put me on the general roll.
Apparently, that there have been speculations of that happening.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Now, I'll be honest with you. Now, there have been they've changed the law in the system, but there were ways that you could get yourself off the Māori roll onto general roll outside an MOE, but it couldn't go the other way. But the thing is, that's the big issue, is Māori descent.
Yeah, that's right. And
and the way the law is written now, it's quite it's a more looser term to what it was previously when it was back it wasn't until like 75 till you actually had the MEO option. The only people who had the option would have been people who were half castes, as they would be called. And a great example is Te Turakatni, the brother of Whetho Turakatni Sullivan and the son of Irerero Turakatni. He opted to be on the general, and I think that's because he stood in a general seat.
Yep.
And when Irerero died, he couldn't stand in Southern Māori to succeed his father because he was on the general roll. And at that point, the options to change, you could only do it closer to the election date. You couldn't do it it was a really weird. It was a point in time that you had to have certain scenarios in that point and all that. And that's how we ended up with our second female Māori MP, was literally because of the electoral roll stuff. But it was not as clear cut whether Māori or non-Māori. And I mean, you got situations like yourself where you're Māori, but you've got quite a strong non-Māori bloodline. You've got the same with like Linda McGregor, who's like, you can tell Linda's Māori. That's pretty damn obvious. But her last name's is Scottish descent.
It's McGregor. It's like my last name. It's English, for example. And most people, they look at me and they go, "Are you sure you're Māori?" Because most people, when they look at me, they think correctly that I'm Danish. And it's like, it is true. I am part Danish.
Yeah.
But I'm also part Māori. I'm equally Māori as I am Danish. I'm half English. Just to put it out there for folks. So it's just like, genetics be geneticking. But yeah, to do automatic enrollments, to grab someone of Māori descent, we'll just slap everyone on the general roll. Like, look, I will concede the point that there are probably things we can do to make Māori seats and wards better and more inclusive and all that stuff to make sure, to have it more as a Māori representative of the Crown, that everyone can go, yep, this is a treaty representative, we can all vote for that person, right? Yeah. That's a separate discussion from this discussion where we're talking about we've got this system, now let's fuck around with it and break shit.
And actually, here's a good example: is Kesha Castle-Hughes went to go roll to vote in the Tamaki Makaurau by-election and found out she was put onto the general roll without a permission.
Yep.
That's
right.
It's
exactly. It's like there are significant ethical problems here. Like, you can see kind of like what Todd did there, right? He starts off with a reasonable premise. Like, okay, let's automate this stuff. And we're sitting here going, yep, we like that. We like using, I don't know, waka kotahi and all that stuff to make sure your enrollment is up to date. Very good. And then he adds in that little sneaky bit at the end going, therefore, let's grab everyone and automatically enroll them as soon as they turn 18, regardless of whether or not they fuck a Papa Māori. Just chuck them all in the general roll.
Yeah, exactly. Or what happens if they're like David Seymour, who didn't know that he was part Māori until the COVID vaccination rollout.
Oh, it would be very funny if we just took everyone that fuck a Papa Māori and put them automatically on the Māori roll. It's like, let's just do that while we're at it. Why not? Just chuck all the Māori people on the Māori roll and chuck all the non-Māori on the general roll and see what happens. I'm sure you get a bunch of Māori who'll come out and go, excuse me, I want to be on the general roll. Why am I automatically on this roll?
Yeah, I know when I was up in Hamilton, Tamati wanted to switch to general because he was upset with the quality of candidates.
Yeah. Gary,
sorry, Tamati.
Gary, if I'm not laughing, it's like, Gary, if I'm not laughing, I'm crying. So laughing is my coping mechanism.
Yeah, and I don't blame Tamati for holding that opinion. But besides the point, sorry, mate, it's a bit too late. You actually have to change before the candidates can be nominated.
Yeah, it's just like, bro, come on. Look, you're just casually just chucking a little cheeky treaty breach in there while we're at it. It's like, no.
Yeah.
No, man.
Okay, let's continue going on and see if Todd inserts his size 12 into his mouth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for spending this time with us today. I suspect that there are a lot of people at home who'll be quite confused just having listened to the submissions through the day, going back to the point that the Honourable Dr. Duncan Webb made. So what we're hearing about voter registration and the limitation of that is it's not something the Commission has recommended, that the period of account won't be reduced from the period last year, so we're still sitting at 21 days. But I think you made the very helpful comment that if we did want to address that period, we could invest. To your knowledge, has that been considered in terms of what that investment would look like over what period of time, perhaps as a proportion of the budget, the Commission's budget? Is that something that's been considered instead of restricting registration?
We've certainly advised on what we'd need for that. And as I said, we've got about $7.8 million in the budget this year to do a business case to make a start on automatic updates and to do more in the digital communication space. So that's a really good start for us.
Okay. You got another question?
Just in terms of forward focus though, is there costing around not needing to make those changes in terms of closing registration, and instead either expanding the team or a further investment in tech so that that wouldn't need to be an option on the table?
We've been funded the costs of this policy change around the enrolment. Is that what you're getting to?
No, I think the question is, the other way of dealing with the issue is to hire a whole lot of more people to count the votes post.
To do the risk management.
To do all the, do that. Is that?
Has that been looked at?
Yes, it has. So again, in budget, there's some contingency there for us to employ far more people to process the enrolments, which is good, and also to resource up more in the post-election process to make sure we can carry out those checks robustly.
Okay, so that's good to know. Right, I'm going to go to Honourable Dr. Webb.
My question is around people enrolling to vote. And obviously to date, we've had a particular framework, and your values of your organisation seem to be well geared towards getting as much voter engagement as possible. It's one of the key kind of measures of how you're doing, including enrolment. Even if they didn't vote, it's still better than them not enrolling at all. So I guess, have you, what will this do to that outcome? Have you kind of thought about what you expect to be the outcome of this? I mean, everyone's kind of presumed that it will lead to a lower proportion of New Zealanders being enrolled to vote. Have you done any kind of analysis of exactly what that might look like?
We've done some planning assumptions for a higher enrolment rate and a higher turnout rate than last time, because we need to be prepared and plan for that. In the regulatory impact statement, we provided some assessments of what number of votes that are people who might not be able to vote or might be party only vote, which we've included in this diagram here.
Okay. So
can I?
Yeah.
So I think I just want to take you back, because you made a statement which everyone's now picked up on, and you said you didn't recommend, and I think you meant aspects of what is in this bill. Maybe can I just give you the opportunity to be absolutely clear what specific elements you didn't recommend that the government's done that you, because obviously you've had budget, you're trying to do digital, you've got 7.8 million to do a business case, you've got more money to have people in 26 election, you've just said all that. But I just want you to be very clear about the aspect that you didn't, that was obviously either not part of your 41 recommendations or not part of the few recommendations that have been picked up.
Yeah, thank you. To be really clear, in those 41 recommendations, we didn't make a recommendation to change when the roll should close.
Yes.
The only recommendation, we made a number of recommendations around enrolment, primarily around moving towards automatic updates. So,
okay.
Yep.
In the policy development process, we didn't express a view on where the cut-off date should be.
So what you're getting specifically is the 13 days. You must enrol before 13 days out before the election. Can I just, sorry, I'm just going to ask one more and then we'll come back. So just on that, I really want to ask you around the implication of allowing people to enrol on the day of the election, because I think, as a politician and all of us, we watch that situation. Is the enrolment on E-Day a very significant issue? Because, logically you could ask the question, why don't you close it off at 12 o'clock the night before people actually have the last day to vote or whatever it might be? So I'm very keen on what you think is allowing enrolment and voting on the same day on E-Day. Is that something that really is quite significantly, from an operational perspective, quite significant issue to manage?
Oh, you might want to speak to that one, Sam.
Processing those enrolments on time is a significant undertaking. And as I said, we've got enough resourcing now that we can get those enrolments processed really quickly.
Oh, but hold on a minute.
Our view is
Hold on a minute. Isn't that what the special vote already does? So you can enroll and vote on the same day. I'm like,
well, special voting is part of that process. It's not the whole process. The special voting part of enrolling and voting on election day, you've got to enrol as one step. And the special vote declaration is not an enrolment form. The special vote declaration is this is what my details are to check them off. So
okay.
The enrolment form is one form. The special vote declaration is another.
Yep.
And that is the thing in there it's the gap. So, and the thing is, before they had same day enrolment, people would do the special vote and then their vote would potentially be, fully invalidated or partially invalidated because they were in the wrong electorate or they weren't enrolled. Whereas enrolling on election day solves that problem because the enrolment forms, the row ones, would have actually been processed before the special declaration votes get is the next step that gets processed, because
Yep.
that gets returned to the appropriate registrar of electors. Now, and there was something mentioned earlier. Why don't we have a centralised sorting system? Most of the enrolment officers are in a centralised location. They're not necessarily. It's not necessarily you're going to have one returning officer for all of them. I know in 2011, the returning office for the OTEC electorate, where all the voting papers went to after it was processed, was in Elston in Porirua.
So Andrew's idea of can you enroll on the same day and vote on the same day? It's like, well, we don't have the means to currently do that now. Is that what you're saying?
That could
There's still there's processing time involved.
Yeah. But you know, if it's within 4 weeks or on the day, it still has the same processing work.
Yep, exactly. So I just want to quickly address Gary's point.
There is no automatic updates as such. It will be enrolment packs that could have been sent back as GNAs or something like that. We don't have automatic updates.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what we're saying here with automatic updates, going with the recommendation from the ministries, we're just talking about updating before ahead of time for, like, I think the ministry said 20 days before the election. Just cross-referencing information, making sure that addresses are consistent. But technically, isn't there a way to vote even though you're outside of your current electorate? Let's say, for example, you've been made
special vote.
Yeah, I mean, yes, special vote. So yes, we still have that, thank God.
Actually, here's something to laugh about. Gary would sit there and know this. Fred McDonald stood for MP for OTEC election in 2014. I went and did some scrutineering for Fred.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2014, the electoral boundary for Otiki Rangitikei shifted southwards and moved from being the boundary being Linton Tokomaru to encompassing Shannon. A lot of people in Shannon work and live in. A lot of people, have done for many elections, and we're probably talking, originally from MMP day, like from MMP days, they were part of the OTEC electorate. From first past the post days, they were part of the Horowhenua electorate. So for years, people in Shannon would vote and live in because they're in the same electorate, and in 2014 got caught out and had to do special votes because they were voting near work.
Yeah, but just to summarise, just to go back to this question
about the automatic update.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too familiar with what's happened here.
Issue that happened with this was, so when people possibly were updating their details or going into their details, they might have had, so like good examples there. Everyone, you guys know me as Sam Summers. You've only ever known me as Sam Summers. That's like, I fill out the section when I've stood for office on the ballot paper to change it from my name on the electoral roll to just say Sam Summers. But my legal name is Samuel Mark Summers. Now,
okay, so it's not like Samuel Gaylord or something.
No.
Sorry,
yeah. But like that's the thing there. If someone some people enroll on the electoral roll without their middle name, and say you update it and you use your passport as your update, that causes a problem in the system if you weren't using the correct name or there wasn't an ID attached to it. And so this is the thing that's more recent. So this is long after I've left the Electoral Commission. That the ID part is if the name on the ID doesn't match the name on the electoral roll system, it could create a new ID in the system and then your old name goes dormant. So that potentially could happen. So it creates a cross-referencing problem. The other one that could get interesting is if someone's got married.
Yes.
Because the thing is, to update the electoral roll, you didn't need to provide proof that you changed your name upon marriage. If you went to do it. So I had often where people would sit there and go through I've got married since I was last enrolled. And I go by my husband's side, I say, put your maiden name in brackets, which would tell the registrar, this is the name to sit there and update.
Yep.
Because if you sit there and go, say you got married and you took a different last name, but you didn't. But the system wouldn't necessarily know that. it won't automatically know that for a normal. If it's for a normal row 1 enrolment, you need to tell it in there. So, and that could mistake a new enrolment versus an updated in someone's details of their name.
Yeah, and this is
someone getting married.
Yeah, so the case for the special vote overwhelmingly surpasses the case for saying, okay, we should shut off enrolment 13 days ahead. Yeah, overwhelmingly, just smashes it out of the ballpark.
Yeah, it just shouldn't be even contemplated. Like, the fact that it's being contemplated as an option is just like, what the hell?
Yeah, so excellent question, Gary. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, a little follow through. That's the special vote. No one in the village received voting papers. Yeah, exactly. There we go.
Yes, you'll be a new mesh block.
Yep.
And that will be, and I know exactly what that word is, but most people wouldn't even know what the mesh block system is.
Yep. So there you have it.
For local body elections.
Yep.
Yes, they'll be for local body elections because, it'll be a new, they probably have put a new mesh block, which is probably what has screwed up the system is that there's new mesh block because it's a new subdivision. So they'll put a new mesh block in there, which will mean it will be around a parcel of housing.
Yeah.
And a minor example of a mesh block change was done in Lower Hutt when they did their local boundaries. There was a particular mesh block that was about to be put into Wainui and Martin Ward, but after objections from local, the mesh block, instead of being put into Wainui and Martin Ward, it was put into Harbour Ward, which made more sense as part of Harbour Ward because of where the access of the road came from Eastbourne, not came from Wainui and Martin's Coast Road.
Yep. So, I mean, it's funny. It's like we're not even past the first submission yet with the Electoral Commission. We haven't even gotten to the other submissions, and we've already gotten over an hour of content out of it.
I know.
This is great. Let's continue.
Cut-off date in that voting period, you're just shifting that processing around. You shift it close to election day, it means we have to do more post-election. If you move it in the other direction, it means we can do more before election day. So in 2020, there were 80,000 enrolments on election day. It grew to about 110,000 in 2023. As we project out for 26, 29, 32, it becomes more unsustainable.
So there's an argument around democracy because when people have to go to the polling station and end up waiting quite significant periods of time, you could argue that's a disincentive to vote. People say, well, I'm working in a retail shop, or the people who, all the people that were worried about not having the ability to vote to make it more difficult. In some ways, actually on a voting day, if that's the only day you can do it, actually it's a turn off for them to vote. Is there an argument around that or not? Because if you're going to get your 110 at 23, if you're 150 and 200 over the next 2 cycles or whatever it might be, that's going to be significant congestion at the polling station.
So what we know
Sam,
from surveying voters after the election.
I'm sorry, but this is so juicy. Comments from experience, please. Has people coming in to do special votes and waiting around, has this disenfranchised voters from your experience?
It was so long ago, I wouldn't know. I know at Newtown polling booth last election, Linda was pushed down the path of trying to do a special vote because she didn't have her easy vote card and she was on the Māori roll.
Yep.
But I think that's determined on who the polling officers are as well. Because one of the things was at the Newtown School polling booth, which is the polling booth I voted at and have voted at every election, last 3 elections.
Hey,
I voted at the same polling booth, which is interesting because last 3 general elections, I've not actually lived in the same electorate that time either. In 2020, I lived in the Oharu electorate, whereas 2017 and 2023, I was in the Rangatahi electorate.
But it brings up another really interesting point because I know that this bill also wants to stop. They want to stop polling areas from being able to hand out things like drink other than water or food or entertainment. And it's like, well, if you've got people coming in to do a special vote and they're having to wait around, there's nothing more disenfranchising than sitting there in a cold hall waiting to vote.
Well, you wouldn't be sitting, you'll probably be standing.
Or standing to vote when you don't have a nice cup of tea. The question
will be it's who they have as you go in there. Like, one of the things I notice is, like, the fact that, like, some of the people were literally, like, gatekeeping, like the fact that it took Linda so long last election to try and cast the general vote, like she was like, oh, get the vote the other way. And what a nightmare it was for her because she didn't have her easy vote card.
Yep.
And they would go, hi there, I'm Linda McGregor. I'm on the Māori roll called Te Tai Tonga. Sorry, Linda McGregor, we can't find you on the Rongotai general roll. No, I'm on the Māori roll. We still can't find you on the general roll. And it was that standoff. Oh, you'll have to do a special vote. Can you show me it? Oh, no, we can't find you on the general roll. I'm on the Māori roll. And it was just like, it was a 20-minute standoff. And she goes, give me the book. I'll show. Oh, look, there I am. There I am at my address.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we found you.
Wow.
And like, that was a stupid thing in there. Like, and that's down to the start. That was down to the staff member. But like, how many of them are gatekeeping and forcing people down a special vote that possibly don't need to do a special vote?
Yep,
an easy vote card.
Yep,
now,
I do.
you know, like that's the question. Is like, you know, if you know exactly which electorate you're in, like, I mean, you know, why force someone to go down a special vote corridor if they can say, yeah, I live in this one. I don't have my easy vote card, but this is where I live.
I do wonder how much of this is set up to disenfranchise people on the Māori roll.
It potentially could be, and I mean, because that's the issue we've had for a long time.
Yep.
Is there have been issues with Māori roll voters not having easy vote cards who've been pushed to special votes potentially on the general roll.
Yep.
You know, and I'd say it's down to who the people are in that polling booth and that polling place manager.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely, you know, it's like it should be like you should look at the Māori roll before you exclude someone, or look on the general roll before you exclude someone.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this, just having read through the bill, like a lot of these clauses are like, oh shit, this is going to impact people like me, you know, who might go vote at, you know, maybe a Māori community centre, or, you know, like a marae or something like that. You know, a lot of this stuff is like, oh, what are you doing in a marae? Oh, you give people cups of tea. Oh no, we can't do that anymore. You know, it's just like, it's just like, oh, what do you do at a school? It's like, there's a nice kitchen over there. The kitchen just happens to be right next door to the polling booth. No, sorry, we can't give you a cup of tea.
Or what happens if you have someone who's in the process of fainting or having a diabetic sugar attack or something?
No, that's bribery now. We can't.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, like I've had people who have had like diabetic attacks at the market and like have come to me, hey, have you got sugar? And I like sit down there and go, how many teaspoons do you want in the cup?
Yep.
You know, like can that actually be done now? I mean,
I mean, see, anything. I don't know if there's anything in the bill that states that, except for in an emergency. Like, I'm going to have to check that up while you continue the speech. I'm going to look for that, and then I'll get back to you guys.
Yeah, no problem.
That they rate the time they have to wait in the overall experience really highly, up to about 20 minutes.
Right.
So after 20 minutes of queuing, that starts to go down. And that's been kind of remarkably consistent over numerous elections.
Can we go back to, sorry, no, I'll be perfectly honest, it's got a little A full here, it's quite hard to read. Particularly some of those headings, which are about 0.6 font or something. But I'm a bit, if we are looking at this, your estimates, I get there's one kind of planning where you have to plan for a significant increase and you've got to have that capacity. And I understand that you're like, okay, we've got to be prepared for this. But have you done planning on the basis of what your expected outcome given these changes is? Because I'm just looking here, you've got allowed domestic votes, which you think will, in fact, marginally rise, notwithstanding that we're stopping people enrolling in voting in the voting period. Whereas that seems quite counterintuitive to me.
Yeah, so that's reflecting population growth, but also we've done this forecast on a high turnout rate, so the 2020
Okay, I have your answer.
So that helps explain why that's a little bit.
Okay, if you're diabetic and you're having a hypo, you're fucked. I'm sorry, if you're having a diabetic crisis, you can't receive any food. They can only give you water. Because providing, I mean, it calls it to the clause 46. During any voting period, a person must not provide free of charge any food, drink, or entertainment in an area around a polling place, knowing that the area is a controlled area.
Yeah, I put in my submission, what happens if we're having to sit, like, you know, the fact use our market, what happens if we're honouring the Consumer Guarantees Act? with a polling booth that's right at school.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm sorry, you're having an emergency. You have to pay for these sweets. I'm sorry, I can't give them to you for free because that's bribery now.
Oh, we can't use the sugar out of the tea room for staff.
No, you got to pay for that.
Constitute as bribery, and we got National Act and New Zealand First Scrutineer sitting on site.
Yep. So drink excludes water. Sorry, you're just going to have to deal with this water. Entertainment includes music. Sorry, you're bored waiting? You can't listen to any music.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck?
Okay, let's get to more.
So I guess the question then is this: given what you are for, how many people do you think? Have you considered how many people won't vote or won't be able to vote because of these changes?
Yes.
Those are the disallowed votes.
So that's that. Okay, so is that 44,000 figure? It ends up being about 44,000 on my maths.
Yeah.
So the disallowed not enrolled anywhere would be about 40,000 higher.
Yeah.
At 71,000, you're talking about or not?
No, the one below that.
Oh, one below
votes.
that, okay.
So-
That's 54,000, isn't it?
Yeah, and maybe to put that in context, I can ask Christina to tell you how that number has varied over time, because it's certainly been quite high in the past.
Okay.
So in 2023, there were 10,566 not enrolled anywhere. It's forecast to increase. And the last time in the RIS, it talks about when the roll closed significantly earlier than it does in recent elections, which is the 1990s. And in that period, there was a significant increase in the number of disallowed votes as a result.
Yeah.
So I think you have to accept that we will be doing everything possible to let people know what the rules are. But if you bring the roll closure date forward, there will be an increase in the number of people who either don't vote or vote and have to have their vote disallowed.
But that you're counting people on that 40,000 number. That's only people who turn up and vote but aren't actually properly enrolled. You've got no figure for people who don't turn up because they forgot to enrol.
Well, we've done this on the basis of about an 82, I think it's an 82% turnout rate. So going back to the 2021.
But you still didn't answer that question, which is how many people do you think won't turn up to the polling booth because they didn't get round to enrolling before voting opened?
We've found that too difficult to try and put a number on.
Have you got a view on how many people turn up and look at the queue and go, I'm not going to vote because it's going to take too long?
No, we don't have any reliable basis to make an assessment.
So just on the polling stations, given what you're projecting, which is going to be more congestion on polling day, part of that funding increase, are you proposing to increase the number of polling stations? Because you see it on election day, right? Some places just bedlam, and people leave and go to other ones or move on. So is that part of the proposition what you're doing?
Yes, part of the budget funding we got was for not only increases in prices, but also population growth and voting hours, so we can maintain a good level of service and access to voting.
And additional polling stations?
Possibly an increase in polling stations. We find often it's the hours, is providing more hours, and a similar number of voting places can work well as well.
Cool. Right, now, Celia?
I wanted to just follow up more about the potential for this automatic enrolment, not just the automatic update. And I just wondered, given that we have the unique situation, or I think it's unique, of the Māori roll and the general roll, has there been any engagement with iwi Māori on what their thoughts about automatic enrolment might be?
We haven't had any direct engagements on that. We'd be looking to do that as we start to get into the design of that and how it would work.
And when would so automatic updates should be happening fairly soon?
We're looking at starting those in 2027.
Okay.
We
So they won't happen till after this election. Okay.
We will be using data matching to identify people next year who look like they may not be at the most up-to-date address, and then contacting them with email or text messages and asking them to update.
So that will be a request to them rather,
Yes.
and it might not be on paper. So it'll be an improvement. Okay.
Okay, I'm good.
I'm sorry, I've really
One
got
more?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
If you don't confuse me beforehand, Mr. Taylor. Could you explain a little bit more about the dormant roll, when people go on that, when they drop off? Because I have had, and this is not saying that it's necessarily the Electoral Commission's fault, it may be a million and one reasons. I have had complaints about people who thought they were on the Māori roll because of all of the issues of the Māori wards. They find they're either on the general roll or they're on the dormant roll or they've completely dropped off. And I'm just wondering if you've done some particular looking into, first of all, tell us what the rules are meant to be, and secondly, tell us why you think people are popping between those things.
Yeah, so the rules at the moment are if we can't contact someone despite making numerous efforts and we think that their address might have changed, we have to put them on the dormant roll.
So that means you sent
Send
so
them
how
on-
do you know that?
So when we, so for the local body election enrolment update campaign, we send about 3.4 million letters out. When they get returned to us saying that person doesn't live at that address, we then look to see if we've got their mobile number or their email, and we'll contact them and ask them if they've changed.
But if you don't get it returned, they stay on the roll?
Yes.
Okay.
And we give people we contact them as soon as we can. We give them about a month to get back to us, and then we're required to put them on the dormant roll. And then all they need to do is update their address and they come back off the dormant roll and go onto the main roll.
Okay, now, Ms. Bolt's got a supplementary, and then I'm going to go to Mr. Stevenson.
Just a supplementary on that, we had a submitter who referred to 3 years, I think it was, in relation to the dormant role. So one, what is that rule? And are there issues with just keeping people on a dormant role for a longer period of time?
Yeah, so by law, if people haven't been on the dormant roll for 3 years and they haven't updated their details, we have to take them off the dormant roll.
After they've been, just what Celia was asking about, after you've tried to contact them, you give them a month and then you'll take them on. Is that right?
Is there an administrative technical reason for that? I mean, is there a loss to keeping them on the dormant role for a longer period?
The fundamental basis of the electoral system is that where you reside determines your eligibility to vote in the ward, in the district, in the region, in the electorate. So the purpose of the enrolment update requirements is to check that you still live at your address. If the mail comes back, we need to try and contact you, and if we don't know your whereabouts, you need to be put on the dormant roll, and there's a dormant roll for every electoral district. So we don't change your role from the Māori role or the general role or vice versa. You remain on the dormant role for your electoral district. And it's important to point out that the dormant role is a safety net. It is a role on which you are continue to be eligible and qualified to vote, but it's based on where you move to. So if you go into a voting place, you haven't updated your details, you've moved outside the electorate, you will be party vote only and you'll have to do a special vote. If you have moved within the electorate, the Electoral Act says that even though you're on the dormant roll, you are fully qualified and both your party and candidate vote can count. But after 3 years, if you do not update your address, you have to be removed, which means you are not qualified. You're not on the dormant roll, you're not on the main roll, you are not registered. So we qualified.
No, I just want, you've got one more?
I think this has become an issue because people are telling us that they've fallen off the roll. And so I guess what I'm trying to work out is why we wouldn't just keep people on the dormant roll, especially now that we have the automatic update provisions, which could rectify this issue closer to an election period, but still perhaps outside that 13-day period still.
I think probably what it comes down to is some fundamental questions about how important is it for people that you live in the area that you're eligible to vote in. So if you've moved to another place, should you continue to be eligible? And if you are dormant forever, what's your eligibility? And what if you've left New Zealand? How would we maintain the integrity of the role if people could be on the dormant role forever and eligible and qualified? It does raise some interesting questions for the committee to think about, but the dormant role and the 3-year requirement, I guess, has been based on the idea.
But it's not a legislative requirement.
Yes.
It is a legislative requirement. It specifies after 3 years. You have to be. Right, now I'm going to go to Mr. Stevenson. Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Stevenson?
Thank you. I'm just interested whether if this went through and people were required to be enrolled 13 days before the election, has the Electoral Commission done any research, or are you planning to do any research on how New Zealanders' behaviour in relation to enrolment might change? So basically I'm asking, have you looked at whether people actually then would enrol earlier or make the effort, etc., or is that something you're planning to do?
That's definitely something we'll be looking into. As I say, we have a lot of engagement with communities around information and education, and we can definitely check with those. We do also do voter surveys before, during and after enrolment campaigns where we can test those sort of questions as well.
You're right there. I'm going to Mr. Arbuckle.
Can I take you to like polling booths? And obviously there's a number of them in each electorate, and now we've got this possible rule around the 100 metres around free food and stuff. Yeah. I'm wondering, this is my experience of going to a polling booth. It's quite a sterile place. It's basically I've got to stick it and vote it. I've never been in a position where there's been a sausage sizzle or anything like that. So I'm just wondering about the consistency across the country? Because in some of the submissions we've viewed today, it's been quite commonplace for a sausage sizzle. So going forward with a 100-metre rule, how do you think that will, how can it be implemented? Is it easy to do, or how do you see that rolling out?
We think it's going to be really important to communicate to venues, voting places, candidates and parties that the 10-metre buffer rule still applies for advertising, and what the 100-metre rule around provision of free food and drink actually means. And there's, as it's currently drafted, there's some provisions there where it's not it's a mitigating factor if there's a reasonable excuse that you didn't understand what the rule is. There's also some provisions for if it's part of your reasonable business to do that. And we think those things are helpful. We think they need to be teased out a bit more. So wood offering, intermittent soup kitchens, food banks, providing hospitality in a community venue or a venue that's important to a particular cultural group. What does that actually mean? Is that allowed or not allowed? Because we think those sorts of things will come up. So any thought you could give to those sorts of things would be kind of really welcome.
So,
All right, let's pause here.
yes, so just on that same vein,
Here we are.
All right, there we go. Okay, so now we've finally entered onto a new talking point, the food.
The food, yes, the food.
The food. Let's have a look at the food situation. Okay, going down my notes. Okay, alrighty. I'm just going to give a quick summary of what that's all about. Okay, so there are two main problems with this section of the bill that the government's trying to address. The problem one is the treating rule, which basically the current law already has an offence called treating. It makes it illegal to give someone food, drink, or entertainment to corruptly influence their vote. So we've already got that in effect.
Yeah.
But the key word here is corruptly. So it's actually unclear what that actually means in practice. What's a friendly sausage sizzle and what's a corrupting sausage sizzle? Like, come on. Like, what's a friendly cup of coffee and what's
and because of this, does this mean you cannot sit down there and set up a polling booth in a, what's it called? Bunnings car park on a Saturday?
Yeah, it's like, oh,
you know,
shit.
like
Yeah.
you can't do that because there's a fundraiser going on the same day.
Well, hold on. The fundraiser, you're buying the food, so that's okay. It's giving free food associated with So if you just happen to be, I don't know, a really cool person and you like handing out people free food, this is going to sting you. Or you want to play some music.
Or can, say, Bay of Plenty Regional Council give their jelly beans out?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you this, some of the It's in the Ballot shows, we had jelly beans provided by Bay of Plenty Regional Council.
Yeah. So I'm going to focus on the first problem because that's the one that everyone's interested in, which is is it illegal? Should we make it illegal to give someone a sausage? Okay, so
some people would say, what do you call it? If it's a vegan sausage, it should be illegal, but a meat one should be fine, which I know will offend you as a vegan.
I don't care. I mean, I just won't eat. But, you know, I mean, I do like the idea of giving people free sausages, whether they be vegan or non-vegan. So the issue with this kind of piece of legislation is that creating a new specific offence that says that you can't provide free food or drink other than water or entertainment within 100 metres of any polling place, including during advanced voting, that's going to create issues with that could potentially disenfranchise voters. That could also impact people who have health conditions like diabetes. So, you know, it's this is not. And then, not to mention, it could put strain on things like police services because it's like, oh, so I saw this person eating, I don't know, a lolly. Call the police.
Being here at Newtown Market was giving out free coffee. That's treating. And so Mr. Plod goes down there and politely goes on the counter and goes, Mr. B, excuse me, Sam Snape. Yes. Apparently you're giving out free coffee for voters. Oh, no. Oh, well, we've been to I go, really? What's the time? Do we go and look back at the cameras? They also record audio.
Hey, do you remember, I don't know which election it was, but I remember, I think it might have been 2020 or something, but when you went out to go and vote, at least this is something that my little local community does, right? You go in to vote, you get a lollipop. You ever encountered that?
Not in Wellington. Just wondering whether we had that, and I don't remember that being done, Levin. 2011, that was not done at the polling booth I was at.
Yeah, so that's something that little towns do, right?
Yeah.
So, but basically, you go and vote. Thank you for turning up. Here's a lollipop. Is that action now going to become illegal?
Probably. I don't know. But yeah, that's a damn good point. Yeah, exactly. Or like, the other one that used to be in there is the I voted stickers.
Yeah, I mean,
is that now considered treating? Even if it is not Julie and Genta giving them out, it is.
That's right.
It is a sticker you collect at the box before you walk out the door. Would that be considered treating?
Yeah, I mean, some communities. Okay, apparently this is news for some people because apparently in their voting stations they don't do that. But in my neck of the woods, that is something that has been done, especially during like the COVID lockdowns and stuff, because small communities do things like that. They often, they're like, oh, come over, have a cup of tea, and wait to vote or whatever. I mean, yeah, it's just like.
Now this one actually got sat there and said, and this is quite funny. Julie and Genta had to explain this to Craig Chappell, one of the local Jehovah's Witnesses. Julianne's paying for my coffee. She's rich enough. She's the local MP, and it was around an election period or something. And Julianne had to say, actually, that could be called as treating. That's actually illegal.
Yeah.
And Julianne actually sat there and said that to Craig. Craig being Jehovah's Witness, stirring the pot, and because Jehovah's Witnesses don't vote.
Yeah, I mean, I get it if you're like a politician or someone running as a politician. I understand that.
Could that be considered as treating? That Laurie Foon, the Deputy Mayor of Wellington, Sarah Free, Sitting Councillor of Wellington City Council, both brought coffee from my business and paid for it. Could that be considered as treating?
No, not under this bill because it's only looking at...
Because some people could misconstrue that.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be counted because they're talking about free food, like free food, free coffee, free. And some small communities do this. They offer you a cup of tea while you're waiting to do something. So,
exactly. I can picture the Ekatona Community Centre. Actually, I can picture that, go vote, you walk over to the kitchen, get your cup of tea, get your wine biscuit, and then... No,
it does happen. I've seen that before. Like, oh, thank you for turning up. Here's a free lollipop. That does happen in my town.
Yeah.
Like Silver Trail was saying, they're from my neck of the woods. They would know as much as I do. They've probably seen this as well. You go into the community centre, hey, cup of coffee, or you go into the healthcare centre, hey, cup of coffee. You're waiting for something, or shout out if you agree or disagree. Let me know, man. But these things do happen in small communities.
Actually, we'll just make that a poll.
Absolutely, make it a poll.
Should let's get to more video clips while I sit there and type that up.
No, I just want to submit it about it. Actually, the Law Commission, I think, but they were saying that kai, particularly for Māori, is very important, and I get that, understand that. But as I said to them, Pacifica, food is just as important. So the rules that have been proposed, do you, for instance, first question, I suppose, do you put polling stations in other demographic groupings? We've got very large Indian, Asian, Pacifica, Māori. Do you normally put it inside Pacifica range churches or whatever?
Yes.
Do you target Asian communities when you're certain, like my Waikato, I have a lot of Chinese. So how do you deal with that thing? Or
So when we're looking at identifying voting places, we look at the demographic makeup of an electorate and parts of the electorate, because they can be quite varied. And we talk to some of the different cultural organisations and groups and associations and ask them what sort of venues do you think would attract the members of your community. So we've had voting places in temples, Pacifica churches, community halls that are essentially run by different ethnic groups.
So just carrying on with Mr. Harpapul's questioning, obviously in the 23 election there was some events that went on that obviously have led to some proposed changes in this bill. Have you seen other evidence of where food and entertainment has been readily available across a range of polling stations across New Zealand? particularly when you go to the Pacifica or Asian communities, or is that common, or is that the events of 2023 quite unusual?
I think that the difference with 2023 was that there was a perception it was being used to encourage people to vote, and that doesn't come up very often, so it was an unusual situation. Look, in terms of voting places that I've visited when there's been voting, it really just depends on what the customs are at that local venue. So we don't keep central records of that, so we couldn't give you a definitive answer on that.
So when you say thanks, you appreciate the committee being tidying up some of the aspects. We heard today, particularly from the Law Commission, saying that the rules around treating and, you know, Dr. Webb's been talking about chocolate bars and things like that. That element of the bill, in your view, needs to definitely be tidied up. But for you, as the Electoral Commission, it's going to be quite a requirement for advertising, being clear about what the 100-metre rule means or whatever.
Yes, definitely. We'll be making sure as we're vetting voting places, potential voting places.
And you can do that? You think there's a sufficient time?
Yeah, we essentially will be starting to look for voting places next year once we know the election date.
Yeah.
And we do quite a comprehensive assessment of every voting place. We're going to apply a much stricter assessment of conflicts of interest to voting places based on experience from the last election. We've tested that in the Tamaki Makaurau by-election. So there's no problem with us with these changes, making sure that people who own and control venues we're going to use, they understand the rules. It's the other activities and groups around that. That could be a little trickier.
But presumably, if they can't meet the requirements, then they won't be chosen as a location for a vote.
That's right.
Yeah. Right. Other questions? Yeah.
Thank you. And I should.
Sorry, hold on.
Okay, are we ready for more stats?
Yeah. That was kind of like, okay, we're kind of forced going down the stats path.
We love stats. Okay, there we go. Yep. So, as we can see there, the number of complaints relating to bribery, treating, or undue influence are low. Below, table 1 below outlines the number of complaints that have been made and the number of subsequential referrals over the last 3 election cycles. So 2023, 4 for treating, 4 complaints, 1 referral for treating. 2020, 2 treating, 1 undue influence, referrals none. 2017, 5 treating, 1 undue influence, 2 bribery, referrals, 1 bribery. So it's a solution to a problem that really doesn't exist. Correct. So the cup of tea is obviously not corrupting people's votes. The sausages are not convincing people to vote for any particular party. That lollipop is not, is not convincing people who are on the general roll to jump over to the Māori roll. Like, obviously, the influence, it's like, come on. Now, I just want to make sure, on behalf of Todd Stevenson, those on the Māori roll aren't getting given 2 lollipops while those on the general are only getting 1. It is true. I do get 2 lollipops. In fact, I walked out with an entire kilo bag of lollipops the last time I voted. True story. Obviously not, guys. That's not happening. I get the same amount of lollipops as everyone else. Let's hear more from the Electoral Commission.
In terms of counting the vote is 14 days. When the last time the vote was counted in 14 days was, and what the size of the special vote was at that stage?
In 2017. And since then, the number of enrolments after RIP day has doubled and the number of special votes has increased by 60%.
Okay.
So just be clear about those numbers. Just answer. You talked about the 80 going to 110, but that's a different figure, is it?
That's election day enrolment.
That's in election day enrolment. So what about in terms of the special votes?
So in 2017, there were 446,000 specials. In 2023, there were 600,000, and we're projecting that increase to 700,000 in 2026. So there's a massive increase in the number of specials since 2017. And the number of enrolment transactions after RIP day was 302,000 plus a few in 2017, and was 602,000 in 2023. So that doubled in 2 cycles.
So in 2017 was the last time the Commission did the count in 14 days. So there's been a significant increase in those complex transactions. We have to run through all of these checks that we've outlined today.
And that is mostly updates?
No, there's a significant number of, mostly updates, but a significant number of new enrolments as well. Look, if I can say, the really tricky thing here for the committee and for us is to balance some objectives around access. It's really important. We all want as much participation as we can, integrity, so people trust the result, and timing us, because that's really important for government formation. And finding that balance point between those three objectives is really, really tricky, both in setting the laws and us then turning that into a massive logistical exercise. So I just want to acknowledge that it's not easy, and I'm not sure there's one right answer to this. You've got to balance those objectives off.
Okay, just one other question that you raised before around people not realising they double counted. I think you used that term, but why would someone not realise that they've already voted?
They may be elderly and they vote when the teams go out to the rest homes. They vote, and then their family might take them to vote, and they don't realise they vote twice. So when we investigate, we can often determine that there's been a capacity.
Oh, okay. So we find out which we've finally found out which demographic is getting 2 ticks or 2 votes. It ain't me.
Yeah. Granny and
it's grandma
at the rest home. Yes,
it's grandma at the rest home. She's getting 2 votes.
Yep.
Yeah, or clerical error, as Carl said, where the wrong name's been marked off the roll. And again, we investigate that. We look at the people above that person on the roll with a similar name and see whether they could have voted. We ring the voter. We ring the voter that wasn't marked off to see if that's the explanation. And, so there's a number of things that we look at.
So, and I think you do refer some to the police.
Yes.
What sort of proportion are we talking about? Is that right? Alleged electoral fraud?
A fraction.
We're talking
55, I think it was last election.
Very.
Another common one we see is someone's overseas, they vote, upload, download. They're not sure if it went through, so when they get back to New Zealand, they vote again just to make sure. And we try and
get back earlier.
we try and provide a lot of information, education, and guidance so people understand they only need to do it once.
So just going back to the timetable, where you've cut things back, comparing, the purple line reduces a lot of that overhang, gives you the time at the end. This is based on a turnout of about 94% and voting percentage of about, what did you say, 82%?
Yes.
So this benefit, if you look at it from this perspective, comes from making people enrol 13 days out. Can I ask you the question? It's a hypothetical question. If, let's say, you made it 7 days out, would that make any difference?
That's a good question.
Probably at the margins, to be honest.
You would therefore, if it's 7 days out, you still make that point.
Yeah, we think after the Auditor General looked at some of the errors that we made and had to correct, we've been through both our enrolment and post-election processes in great detail. We've had a look at all the controls and checks we do. We're making a whole lot of improvements to those. And one of the key findings from the Auditor General is we need to create the conditions that all of those integrity checks can be done really well. So this plan we've got here is enabling us to do that.
But it comes at the cost of 13 days out. I suppose the question I'm trying to get to, and this is hypothetical, but it's quite important, the one I would most do, is what would be the latest you could set the requirement to enrol and still achieve this, which, based on what you've presented here, would be a more, it gives you the time to make sure you're more accurate. That's what this does, right? So I'm trying to get a view whether it's 5 days, whether it's 7 days, or whether it's 1 day, or you still, because I presume if we allowed it to continue doing it on election day, we'd be back into the same diagram as with the grey, except you've got even more people you're having to enrol on that day. It's going to make it even worse. So you're actually going to push out the time frame. What you haven't put in here is the counterfactuals, to the extent that, based on what you know, I imagine it's not going to be 20 days, it's going to be probably 30 days.
If the current settings continued, we would replan, but we would still be aiming to do it within the 20 days. We would resource up on the enrolment processing to try and get those done as quickly as possible. It would go into the post-election period, but it does start to say, look, if you look at the end there, we've got 3 days to do the final quality assurance checks. We might have to crib some of that back, and in some of those other areas, we might have to adjust and then resource up to try and get through those periods. So we would still be aiming for 20 days. And primary question, where we got the cutoff, it's kind of really hard to say what would happen. It's so subject to voter behaviour, and actually putting it partway through voting potentially could create more confusion for voters.
More confusion.
Because, you know, their family members will say, look, I voted at this time and I was able to enrol, just go ahead and do it. But if they're past the close-off date.
And if you accept that, do you accept that would be a benefit in closing it off the day before the election or some days before, or you don't see the election day with all the congestion as, I'm now asking you around a practical perspective, because there is a practical dimension to this. Is there any benefit in having a date from your perspective, operational thing, about having a earlier than election day cutoff for enrolment?
Operationally, it gives us a bit more time to process those enrolments, so we've got most of that done before the post-election processes start. That's the operational one.
Okay.
But the total count would still be on that 2021
We would
day.
still be aiming for that because we've got 60 days to return the writ.
Yeah, and so it's possible, and I guess what might be useful for us to see, Mr. Chair, is a model where, without having the restriction on registration, how that model would flow with the other changes, including the automatic updates, for example, how that might affect the numbers and still get us to the same.
Yeah, but there's a ceteris paribus though. Your giving factor is the fact that you're relying on more funding, right?
Yes.
That's how you get to the 20 working days, even under the with the expanding role, right?
Yes.
So it does. That's how you've got around. That's how you've been able to make that statement. If you go to 2029 or 2032 or whatever, because we are not just focused as a committee. We shouldn't be just focused on 2026, right? We should be focused on the next 10 years and future-proofing it. So it'd be interesting to whether you would say, maybe the question is how much more funding, or if you didn't have any additional funding, and that would be the more interesting thing of saying what would it mean as the population of New Zealand grows and increasing trend towards enrolling on the last day.
Yeah, we've projected out, and this is in the regulatory impact statement, what the number of votes and special votes would look like at the next 3 elections, and we don't think the 20 days would be sustainable by 2029.
Oh, you don't? Yeah. Okay,
and can I just say, there's a limit to how much money you can throw at this because the number of people you employ becomes unachievable quickly.
Yes, yeah.
I can understand it's hard to bring in temporary people with the knowledge, but surely your introduction in 2027 of the automatic enrolment updates is going to help you quite a lot. So I'm not quite clear why the 2029 is actually going to be that much worse than 2026, even with population growth.
We think the trend of people to do their enrolment updates later and later is going to grow, so a greater proportion of the population will do that. The automatic enrolment updates will offset that quite a bit, but it's not going to solve the problem completely in 29 and certainly by 32. That's where we need those other technologies and streamlining of the processes coming on board. And remember, the Australian experience is about 3 electoral cycles to get the full benefit of automatic enrolment update. So we've got no reason to believe that wouldn't be the same case here.
Thank you for looking out those future dates.
Yeah. So,
to be quite honest, I'm still trying to understand part of the problem. And you mentioned that there's 60 days to get the writ returned. So that's the date at which the public of New Zealand ought to know where things stand, and that's declared in terms of how many seats in Parliament, etc. And so that's the date that we've determined is critical in terms of clarity. What is the issue in terms of the timing between getting the vote counted and the return of the writ?
We've got to provide up to 3 days for judicial recount applications to be lodged. And then if we get through that period and there aren't any, then we can return the writ after that point.
So are you saying, maybe just to paraphrase, I think what the question is, the 20 working days that you're working on here, which you seem to be saying is a bit of a magic number, is that gives you sufficient buffer to be able to meet the writ day of 60 working days or whatever? Is that the way we interpret that statement?
Christine,
we use all of the time available.
Okay, so
and it's 20 days, not 20 working days.
So to ask Ms. Walder's question another way, you wouldn't want to be extending it beyond the 20 working days, because that then compromises other aspects you've got. It's important we hit the 20 days.
Yes, because it's a legal obligation to return the writ within the 60 days. That's what we're required to do.
So that's a done.
Quite a big gap between the 20 and the 60.
Maybe we could ask you.
And for those who are wondering, 60 days, the writs are issued, or like the writs to call an election is issued 28 days before election day.
Yep.
So if there's half that time's gone in election campaign period.
Yep.
So just to put some context in there, like, you know, so the 60 days, half of that time is before the election, not, you know, so half is before, half is after.
Yeah, I mean, listening to all of that, I still don't know entirely what other problems they're trying to fix here. Like, I'm looking
the bill isn't fixing the problem. The bill is trying to find a solution and trying to make out there's a problem that doesn't exist.
That's right. It's like this bill, as it's written, is going to create more problems than solve. I mean, listen, I agree with the ministry that there's utility in the automatic enrollment updates idea. I agree with that, but we need public consultation on that. I don't understand the logic behind closing enrollment earlier other than to disenfranchise voters. Special voting is by far the most ethical and democratic way to resolve this problem. And the other thing that they're hoping to seek to fix with the automatic enrollment updates, right, is that the less people we can get using special voting, right, the quicker we can get through a lot of this stuff, which, okay, I understand the logic behind that argument. Okay, I get it. But why are we still getting rid of special voting? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You know, or trying to reduce special voting. But yeah, it's interesting about the double voting is elderly people.
Yeah, the double,
amaze me.
Yeah, so it turns out that it wasn't Māori all along. That was double voting or double dipping or whatever.
Or Gary's hit it on the head here.
Yeah, they're trying. They're trying to fix is people who don't vote for them. Correct. They're basically trying to disenfranchise. Mostly, I'm going to say now, mostly Asian Pacific and Māori people, but also people who, you know, it's going to have knock-on effects. Like, look at people who are in the military, or look at people who, you know, might be escaping a domestic abuse situation, or, you know, there's lots of different people this is going to impact.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
People who live overseas, people who, you know, it's like, what? Stupid.
So,
we haven't even touched on the prisoner issue yet.
No, exactly. Okay, let's keep going.
To explain that to us, not now, but we might ask you to, but we're obviously going to have some follow-up questions, but I think absolutely understanding what that 20 days is in relation to the writ day would be cool. The other one we might come back to you on some of these scenarios, because I think if we want to future-proof this legislation, which should be the role of the committee, understanding some of those scenario stuff will be very important. But hey, look, we've taken you past your due time, but it's been a fascinating conversation. I'm so grateful that you've come today to talk to the committee and taking that time. I think everyone sitting in the room has found this absolutely fascinating.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Right. Sorry, Andrew, you forgot to say, and the people watching the Order Paper podcast on the following Sunday.
Yeah, because we're pretty much at the end of the 2-hour mark. I'm going to go over the prisoner situation, because that wasn't even covered, and in that 2 hours we're talking about food.
Might be covered under the bill from the senior counsel from the Attorney General's office.
Yeah, have you got that video?
It's the next submitter.
Oh, okay, lay him up.
It could be covered. I don't know.
If it's not covered, I can cover it quickly here.
Share this, but we've got a little bit of time. What I might do, why don't we just have 5 minutes? You want 5? Right. You want 5 minutes, guys? Yeah, sure. Right. Todd and Ryan and Remo, everyone, we're just going to take 5 minutes if that's all right, and then we'll resume. All right? Oh, great. Yeah. How are you going? What's happening now? We're including. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Thank you. Right. Shall we take off? Thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. Right. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou. I'm Jason Brukas, Senior Crown Counsel at the Crown Law Office, and I'm appearing here today to, at the invitation of the committee, to address the Attorney General's Section 7 report. The Attorney General has a statutory obligation under the Bill of Rights Act, under Section 7 of the Bill of Rights Act, to draw Parliament's attention to a bill that appears inconsistent with the Bill of Rights. And on this occasion, the Attorney General's advice is that various aspects of this bill are inconsistent, appear inconsistent with the Bill of Rights. In summary, drawing on paragraph 5 of the report, the blanket disqualification from electoral registration for those detained in prison under a sentence of imprisonment appears inconsistent with the right to vote, Section 12 of the Bill of Rights. the transitional provisions relating to prisoner voting appear inconsistent with Section 25G, which is the right to the benefit of a lesser penalty. The proposed 13-day registration deadline, according to which eligible persons would be required to register no later than 13 days before polling day, and would therefore remove the ability of eligible persons to register up until polling day, appears inconsistent with the right to vote. And the revised bribery offence as drafted appears inconsistent with the right to vote and the right to freedom of expression. So there are 4 aspects, therefore, of the bill that appear inconsistent with the Bill of Rights, and the Attorney General is discharged to statutory obligation to draw those matters to the attention of the House. I'm happy to go into more detail. That was obviously a very high-level summary, but I'm happy to go into detail in respect of each of those.
All right. So I think it's a nice invitation.
Well, but I think Vanessa should
You go, Ms. Walters.
Thank
Cool.
you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for your time today. Through some of the submissions, actually many, we've heard about how the changes, or many of the changes that the attorneys commented on, will have a disproportionate impact on certain communities, young people, Māori, disabled people, for example. In the body of the report, there's a conclusion that doesn't make a finding of discrimination in terms of removing the vote for those who are in prison. I wonder whether there was consideration of whether there is indirect discrimination at play, both in terms of that issue, but also limiting the period of registration in terms of how it will impact particular groups of people, not only Māori, but others as well.
Yes, thank you. So in terms of the disqualification for those in prison, that's addressed at paragraph 16 of the report. And this issue of discrimination, specifically the argument that blanket disqualification of prisoners involves unjustified discrimination against Maori in particular, that has been litigated previously, and the Court of Appeal held in the case of Naranoa, and that's cited at footnote 17, that a blanket ban does not involve unjustified discrimination. And a couple of the reasons that the court relied on included that the disqualification applies equally and will have equal effect on Maori and non-Maori. And the court also placed emphasis on the fact that a very small percentage of the Maori population will be affected by the ban as a percentage of the entire Maori population. So the Attorney General has followed that reasoning from the Court of Appeal, and I believe that panel that decided that case included the current Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So that was given consideration and analysis included on the basis of prevailing authorities. In terms of empirical studies of the extent to which Maori may be affected to a greater degree than other ethnicities by the prisoner voting ban, that's somewhat outside my areas of expertise. And I think policy people, I'm a legal advisor, so policy people will be better placed to have data on that from a social perspective. In terms of the registration period.
Sorry, can we just finish? I just want to deal with prisoners.
Sure.
Have you finished it? Because I'm running.
So my point was not so much about direct discrimination as indirect discrimination. So a rule that does apply equally to everyone, but because we have a higher proportion of Māori imprisoned, for example, that it does disproportionately impact them. And if you slice that up against reports that we've seen, I can't remember if it was the Ombudsman or other, or IPCA possibly, that talked about discrimination that happens at layers which result in a prison population that looks as it does, then it's indirect discrimination as opposed to direct discrimination. Same issue in terms of registration, but that one discreetly for prison. Yeah.
I understand the Court of Appeal did consider that.
Indirect
they
as
did
well.
consider indirect. I mean, I suppose what I would say about the issue is, and we're guided obviously by leading court authorities in the Attorney General as in interpreting the Bill of Rights for the purposes of these reports. That when it comes, it's clear that in regard to the right to vote, each Maori prisoner would have a right to vote, and to the extent that the blanket disqualification applies to Maori prisoners, right, there would be a breach of Section 12 because of the blanket nature of the ban. But the Court of Appeal has held there isn't an additional breach of Section 19 as well. And so that's been followed in the terms of the report.
So when, as I understand, back in 2020, I think, was when a prisoner, if they were incarcerated or sentenced to more than 3 years in jail, they were excluded from voting. Obviously, we've heard today that some of the definition, remand and sort of, and understand the ways this has been drafted is would need to be clarified if we're going to continue with those provisions. But even under the 2020 arrangements, was that contrary to Bora as well? Was that contrary to all, or what? By going back there, what are we? Have things moved on, or what's the driving behind it?
So, in terms of the right to vote, which is Section 12 of the Bill of Rights, Crown Law vetted that previous legislation which introduced the 3-year threshold, and Crown Law advised the Attorney General that that was not inconsistent with the Bill of Rights, because it's not a blanket ban, it's a more tailored scheme, right, which targets more serious offending.
Right.
And that hasn't been litigated though. So the blanket ban has been litigated, and that went all the way up to the Supreme Court and the Crown.
So if it was, for instance, if the committee so chose, and I'm not presupposing anything, so I don't want people thinking that, but if it presupposed that, note that the definition, the way it doesn't work now, but if it was to go back to those with a 3-year sentence serving it, what you're saying, never been tested in court, and because it's targeted, it may be okay, but it would need to be subject in time.
Yes, I can't preempt advice on a hypothetical, but it's very clear on the basis of New Zealand case law and comparative case law from comparable jurisdictions that a blanket ban is an unjustified interference with the right to vote.
Those for 3 years is not a blanket ban.
It would depend on the terms of the legislation, but something other than a blanket ban could involve a justified interference with the right to vote. So there would still be an interference with the right to vote because people above the 3-year threshold would be disenfranchised. But it may be there may be a greater likelihood that there would be an argument for justification.
Okay.
Because
is it you got related on this?
It's on the registration deadline. So finish.
No, nothing to do. No. So we've finished this on prisoners.
Yes.
We were about to go to the next one though.
If I might just add one further point to that, just to elaborate what the problem is with the blanket ban. I mean, one of the problems is that the stated rationale for disenfranchising prisoners or disqualifying prisoners in this way is because they've deviated from their civil responsibilities. Right? That's the government's rationale for the bill. But the way that the blanket ban operates, it doesn't really give effect to that rationale, because you could have someone sentenced for a very minor crime for a month.
Of course.
And they're in prison and they're disenfranchised, but you could have someone who committed a premeditated murder and they're released before polling day.
Great example.
Yes.
Now we understand, and that's been highlighted in the discussion, so that's useful. Right, let's go to the 13.
All right. I think that this is a great place to chuck in a summary. So first, what is the current law? Right now, prisoners serving a sentence of under 3 years can vote, and people in psychiatric hospitals or secure facilities lose their right to vote if they've been detained for more than 3 years. Now, this bill is going to change this completely. This bill pretty much states that no prisoner can vote while in prison, no matter how short their sentence is, but it will restore the voting rights for people in those psychiatric hospitals or secure facilities, meaning that they can always vote no matter how long they've been detained. Now, the crucial question is who was consulted on this major change? The report, which is the supplementary analysis report, shows that the minister's preferred option was the only one presented to cabinet, and the consultation wasn't with the public on the specific bill, but instead looked at past reports and reviews. And here's what those past consultations found. Back in 2010, a massive 93% of submitters were against a ban on prisoner voting. So, okay, You've got the 2010 report. Most people are in favour of allowing prisoners to vote. Great. In 2020, 78% of submissions supported the current system that lets some prisoners vote, and half of those submissions actually wanted voting rights for all prisoners. So that's 2020, 2010. Yay, we support prisoners voting. More recently, in 2023, the Independent Electoral Review Panel actually recommended removing the ban on prisoner voting to better uphold the Treaty of Waitangi or Te Tiriti. So the historical feedback has consistently been against having a full ban. What this bill's going to do is it's going to implement a full ban. So nobody wants this. Who wants this? A very small minority of people want this.
This would be what Rima Narkle would sit there and go, what about the victims of the crime?
Depends on the crime. Going over these reports.
What happens if they get sentenced to time served while sitting on remand, Rima? Have you thought about the victims then?
But listen,
she seems to be the one who seems to be so anti.
If Rima Narkle's the one that cooked up the idea of allowing people detained in psychiatric hospitals or secure
I
facilities,
don't think she would sit there and do that. Come on.
No,
I
but
don't think Rima's that kind.
Yeah, no, but I support that amendment.
Yeah.
I think people that are in
it's how do you snip out the bad section with the good section?
Yeah, I like that amendment, allowing people in psychiatric hospitals to vote. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I'm pro-democracy. I want everyone to be able to vote, including prisoners. That's my hot take for tonight. Yes, I want prisoners to vote. I want everyone to vote.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like here's the thing is, you ban prisoners from voting who have been sentenced, but those on remand can still vote, which means you still have to have voting facilities available at a prison for them to vote.
Like, here's my extra cooked take. Yes, I would support Tim Yago's right to vote. I know he's a horrible person, don't get me wrong, but he's still a citizen of New Zealand.
Yeah. Actually, here's things where things get interesting. What about those foreign nationals sentenced to serve crimes in New Zealand? Where it gets interesting. So, like the most common one is usually drug smuggling, getting caught caught in New Zealand boundaries, because that's where the crime of you got caught occurred. You're treated and sentenced under the New Zealand system. But those who are sentenced to a crime in New Zealand, who are foreign nationals, that's where things get a bit dicey.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right, Kiwi Skirt, we're almost there. But yes, so if the permanent residents or citizens, I don't care what crime they've done, they should be able to vote.
Yeah.
That's my final take on that.
Yeah. On some good news is if they're Americans, they'll still be able to have their right to vote in the United States by was it postal ballot?
Well, I think America is well on their way to cooking everything that's related to the First Amendment.
That's true. Yes, and we do remember what happened with Cash Patel bringing his 3D printed guns into New Zealand.
Yeah, when it comes to anything legal, I sure as hell don't trust the current Trump administration. Sorry, not sorry. Actually, no, I'm very not sorry. That they've shown that they're pretty cooked.
Yeah. Now, just before we go.
Yeah, cooked Patel.
So this morning, I put my vote in the Dropbox. Take a look at what's. Oh, okay. This will help. So
that does help.
At about 4:30 this morning, at BP Berhampore, I dropped off the papers. There's my vote, and gone into the Dropbox. So I voted.
And you should have got a free lollipop for that. In my world, you would.
Unfortunately, BP Berhampore, the only thing you could sit there and dispense at that time of day is the petrol or the diesel from the pumps via the unmanned FPOS machine.
I think we should make it a legal requirement that when you vote, you get a free Chupa Chup.
No, that's too expensive. They cost about 70 cents each.
I don't care. Free Chupa Chups for all.
Yep. So yes, I voted. It was an
Very
interesting way of voting. some people will be shocked with the way I did vote. I will be honest. Yes, there were 2 ticks for the Māori ward, and I do know some may have seen on social media. I was sceptical whether to grant that keep for Te Whanganui-Tara Māori ward in Wellington. The instant ballot experience dealing with the candidates and the result of the cancellation of our show did and felt like the candidates gave the ammunition to disestablish the ward, made things very difficult. It felt like swallowing a dead rat. Other parts of the country, however, I have not got that feeling. That is unique to Wellington.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I think I'll be honest with you. Unless Wellington is fully funded for 2028, the nice to have that's in the ballot might not appear.
Yeah, I mean, my position on this is that I support retaining the Māori wards. I think they're an important part of our democratic system. So we're not talking about an iwi board here. We're talking about a Crown representative who's upholding Te Tiriti. And those Māori wards, right, the people that sit on those seats don't just represent Māori people. They represent the entirety of the council. And I know that, Sam,
and
you've had
your oath to the entirety of the council as well.
Yeah, the entirety of the district. But here's the thing, like, regardless of the personal beef we may have had in the past, swallowing the dead rats with some candidates, right? We've had some absolute standout candidates that have sat in that seat, like Nico.
Yeah, exactly. And
He's done a fantastic
someone like
job.
Nico actually stands in 2028, subject to retaining the Māori ward.
Yep. And the last thing I want to do is deny future Nikos a chance to run at having that seat, because I know we've had issues with. I know you've had issues with other Green Party people, and it is what it is.
Yeah, that list shot up this election, which is quite weird considering I've traditionally would vote for them.
Yeah,
actually, for the regional council, I did actually rank both Henry and Gardner in. So for the regional council, yes, I haven't abandoned you, Greens. I've just been selective on who got the vote.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, I'm a greenie. I will put my hand up and say, yes, I am a greenie.
Yeah.
But listen, conflicts happen. People fall out over all sorts of different stupid things.
Exactly.
Throughout, that's just life. But when I am looking at a ward, like, look, just about everyone that's running for community board said that they would vote against Māori wards. Did that justify me going, well, fuck you, I'm not voting for any of you?
Obviously, that wasn't your litmus test.
No, I mean, for me, I see the utility in keeping a community board, and me voting warrants keeping the community board. It adds a legitimacy to that board, because the last thing I want is central government coming in and taking over the way how things are funded in this town. I am, for the record, I am a libertarian socialist, so I'm very skeptical of central government, and I prefer to support small government initiatives. But in saying that, I am a greenie, and I support the Green Party. But regardless of that, now where am I going with this? But anyways, going back to Māori seats, I would have loved it if they all said, yes, we're going to give 2 ticks. Absolutely. But I know that having spoken with the people that are running in my neck of the woods, that they are committed to working with iwi regardless of what the outcome is. And I do value that regardless of what their logic is behind keeping a Māori ward, voting to keep a Māori ward or voting to get rid of it. So that was more my litmus test, is how committed are they and what's their past record in working with iwi. Now, saying that, I 100% support Māori wards and I want them to stay.
But I can tell you, if we get out of the Wellington bubble, I'd say between 97-98% of candidates who appear on some ballots support Māori wards.
Yeah, I mean, as Silver just pointed out, there are issues with the way how Māori wards are done, but I do not believe in throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I do think there is some good there in keeping those Māori wards.
And here's something that has highlighted something that shows the unfairness in there, is in Whakatane, Tony Boynton's maximum budget she can spend on her campaign is $3,500.
Yep.
Whereas the Whakatane o Hopi candidate, Dave Stewart for one, can spend about 4 times as much funds on a campaign, because his campaign is based on the general ward population of that ward, which is 4 times the size, which is it's about 3.5 times the size of the Māori ward.
Hmm.
So it's something like Māori ward people is was it less than 5,000, but the general ward is more than 10.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. There are some issues, but
and that
that
will also be the same. That will be affected with the 3 candidates standing in Te Whanganui-a-Tara Māori ward in Wellington. Like, put it this way: last election, Tory whānau had a budget that she could probably spend of $65,000. This election, she won't be allowed to spend $65,000 because she only has, 9,000 voters.
Yeah. So I agree. There are issues there, right? But to throw out the baby with the bathwater means that people like me, Māori people, we lose out on the ability of having someone who is dedicated to representing Te Tiriti on the council. So whether it be and applying that kaupapa to decisions that both impact Tauiwi and Māori alike. So it's very important to have that because I know the consequences of not having that representative. Akaroa, look at the history of the sewage treatment plant down there.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when local Māori, local iwi don't have a say. We now have a sewage treatment plant on top of Wahitapu where people have died. My own ancestors were killed by Te Raupraha. Their bodies were out there. They were cremated. Their ashes all over the place. Later, a sewage treatment plant was built on top of my ancestors. And now that sewage treatment plant is leaking effluent into the harbour.
Yep.
To make this even worse, there's even a dump site nearby. So you've got 2 things now, right? And if we had that ability to go, no, we want to go through consultation. We want to be able to say, don't put it here. We acknowledge it's necessary, but don't put it here, right? I think it would have improved relations significantly between iwi and local council. So that's why I'm in favour of keeping those wards because I don't ever want to see that happen to anyone else, regardless of whether they're Pākehā or Māori. You don't put sewage treatment plants on top of people's ancestors.
Yeah. And it's something I will definitely sit there and say. I don't think Wellington's race is in the bag for retaining Māori wards. But I do feel, from what I've heard, the fight to retain in Wellington ain't been led by the candidates, whereas the fight to keep them in Whakatane, the fight to keep them in Rotorua, the fight to keep them in Western Bay of Plenty, the fight to keep them in Hamilton, the candidates are going for, are literally going down both paths.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the same in the Horowhenua District Council, so the same thing. Kapiti Coast District Council. I mean, they haven't even had a Māori ward councillor yet on the Kapiti Coast District Council, and they're fighting to keep it.
Yep.
I've seen the was it Himanora, Grace, and what Jordan was it Wandsborough has sat there and done. It is quite they're definitely going in there. Same in Palmerston North City Council. Same as what we saw in Taurua. And I have a feeling that in Wellington there are some of the candidates are probably a little bit asleep at the wheel.
I mean, absolutely. Like I've seen that too. You go to areas where there's a Māori ward, they take it for granted that everyone's going to vote in favour of that. No, not necessarily. You've got to make your case. And
I'd say if we had Nico Steele re-election in Wellington, it probably would have been more in the bag, but we don't.
Yeah, I mean, Nico has done a very good job in Wellington, not just representing the interests of Māori, but also consulting with Tauiwi. And I think that's very important when you're in a Crown position. Like, same in Māori seats. You are a Crown representative. Yes, you represent Te Tiriti, but you're also a Crown representative. So you've got to make sure that you're doing consultation and interacting with all groups.
Yeah. Have a good night, Kiwi Skirt.
Yes, go to bed. Go to bed. Inoho.
Yeah. And yes, make sure you've got, 6 more days until your votes, to have your voting cast. Make sure if you haven't got your votes in person yet, contact your retrospective district councils or city councils to arrange a special vote and go in person. Most special voting is available at local libraries.
Yep.
Yeah. That's something that's a safe bet as the local library.
Regardless of how you vote, please go out and vote.
Yeah.
That's so important for local democracy. Please go and vote.
Yeah. One thing it is coming interesting is some parts of the country, the 32-day period may be resulting in an increased voter turnout. Wellington is looking like it happens. It's going down that path that we may actually have an increase in turnout this election, and part of it will be to do with the enrolment period.
Yep.
I mean, I'll probably also sit there and say the Māori Ward referendum might also be part of it as well. We don't know that part yet. It will be interesting to see how it goes. But I think the biggest one is it's the longer period of time that is helping people decide.
Yes. Yeah. And with that, we should probably wrap it up because we're at the 2.5 hour mark. And
yeah,
I'm hungry. I want to eat dinner.
I know. We're really going way into overtime. Yep. Thank you, Electoral Commission and Attorney General. Well, not the Attorney General, the Attorney General's office.
Yes.
It was. I definitely thought we might have got to a few more submissions, but they were quite interesting.
They were very in depth. I thought it was great.
Yeah. Now, for those who are wondering, we will be having a election results show next Sunday, starting at 12 p.m. through to 8 p.m. It will be a long day, but it'll be worth it. So if you want to tune in and watch the election results of not just your own council, well, depends which part of the country. We're only covering the councils we covered for it's in the ballot. Mm-hmm. You can watch how the results are, watch the distributions. I've actually worked out of the 19 councils that we ultimately ended up covering, only 5 of them use STV.
Oh, jeez.
But it's amazing how long it's going to take to Kapiti Coast District Council. We're allowing for an hour.
All right, big election.
Because they've got 87 candidates standing across 32 positions.
Yes.
Yeah. And thank you, Gary, for that, and thank you for supporting. Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, we'll make the move, and we'll see you all back at midday. And if you're in Wellington, come down to the Newtown Community Centre and join us in person. You could be a panellist, for all we know, as long as you're decent.
As long as you're decent, yeah, we've been there, done that one before.
Yeah. I can sort of tell you right now, if you're known to be a troublemaker, I'm sorry. And Don, sorry. Can you watch from home, please? Yeah, but apart from that, if you're a decent person, if we've had a good result, we've sent invites to people we've had good responses with. Yeah.
Okay, I think everyone's telling us to wrap it up. So
yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Good night.
Thank you for watching the Order Paper, your express ticket to the New Zealand House of Representatives. Every episode, we unravel the complex world of legislation, debate, and democracy. From bills to select committees, we've got it all covered. From our team of political commentators who will dissect and explain what's happened so you can remain up to date on what's happened in the Aotearoa, New Zealand Parliament. To support our channel, you can become a Patreon member at patreon.com/it'sintheballot. The Order Paper podcast is brought to you by It's in the Ballot Productions, live at 8 p.m. New Zealand